Good afternoon. Good afternoon to every one of you. Please take your seats. Okay. I'm going to be the moderator today, so my main task is to keep the time and that we don't exceed our time. And of course, I'm happy for all the persons joining us here from abroad, my AICESIS colleagues, all of them. But I just want to point out, we also have some local persons here. We have some of our partners who have helped us make this, all these meetings possible. So I want to acknowledge their presence. Also, we have, besides the persons here in this room, we have some others online who are also going to follow this workshop. I thank you all for your attention and patience. May I ask in advance, I know that some of the speakers have already tuned in because we are a little late on time, that everyone, when speaking, do it slowly, a little more slowly than I'm doing it now, so that the translators, because we do have translators, that's why I have my earphone, they're at the registration table, because some people will be speaking in other languages than English, some might be French, even Portuguese. So be advised, it is very handy. That being said, I have the honor to ask for Mr. John Jacobs to come in front to do the official opening. Mr. Jacobs.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Rakami. Distinguished guests, esteemed members of our Economic and Social Councils, colleagues and friends, good afternoon. And for you who were here this morning once again, welcome to our beautiful island of Curaçao. It is an honor to open this workshop of the International Association of Economic and Social Councils and similar institutions here in Willemstad on behalf of our global association. Allow me to begin by addressing the format of today's meeting. Many of our keynote speakers and panelists are participating online owing to differing time zones, concurrent duties, and responsible travel planning. This is not a limitation, it is, in fact, a strength. The hybrid format expands inclusivity, strengthens access, and embodies the spirit of global cooperation that AICESIS represents. Your presence, whether here in Willemstad or connected virtually from across the globe, reflects our shared determination to engage in dialogue on one of the most transformative challenges of our time. Esteemed gathering, AICESIS exists for a clear purpose: to foster dialogue that bridges regions, reconciles interests, and advances social justice and sustainable development, an obligation rooted in Article 3 of our statutes. That purpose is urgent today. The world of work is undergoing a structural transformation. Artificial intelligence is reshaping production, employment, and the governance of our economies, raising profound questions about fairness, accountability, and dignity at work. When algorithmic systems influence decisions once made by people, the issue before us is no longer whether change will occur, but how it will be governed and for whom. The renewal of the social contract in this digital age is therefore not a slogan. It is a policy imperative. as United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres and International Labour Organization Director General Gilbert Humbo have stressed, the path forward must rest on multilateral cooperation and the primacy of social justice. Inclusive dialogue is the means by which technological progress can be redirected toward decent work rather than displacement, and towards opportunity rather than inequality. Economic and social councils, by statute and by practice, provide the institutional architecture for such dialogue. They convene governments, workers, employers, and civil society in a forum where evidence is weighed, interests are articulated, and consensus is forged. That architecture must now extend to the governance of artificial intelligence, to standards for transparency and explainability, to safeguards against bias and discrimination, to the protection of privacy and data integrity, and to the preservation of fundamental rights at work. Over the coming sessions, we will examine how councils such as ours can enable states and social partners to anticipate technological shifts through rigorous, independent analysis, co-design regulatory frameworks that reconcile innovation with the protection of interests, invest in human capabilities, education, reskilling, and lifelong learning, and also strengthen social protection and just transition measures, ensuring that no worker, enterprise, or community is left behind. We are joined by experts whose perspectives will help translate principles into practice. Mrs. Glenda Quintini from the OECD, Mr. Stefano Palmieri from the European Economic and Social Council, Mr. José Ignacio Conde Ruiz from the Spanish Council, Ms. Sabina Dewen from the International Research Institute, Just Jobs Network, Mr. Hanif Navid from the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs of the UN ECOSOC, who will have a pre-recorded message. Mr. Armin Munir Alawi from the Council of Morocco, and Mr. Vasco Torres de Leon from the Inter-American School for Social Dialogue and Conflict Resolution. The latter we won't be doing today, he told me. Their contributions, together with interventions on behalf of the ILO and UNESCO, will ground our deliberations in comparative evidence, practical experience, and multilateral standards. Curaçao experience as a small, open, and resilient society reminds us that institutions matter. Where dialogue is genuine, policy becomes predictable. Where evidence is respected, trust grows. And where the rule of law frames innovation, productivity can advance without eroding human dignity. This is the ethic we bring to our work within the AICESIS and to our cooperation with the ILO, UNESCO, and the wider United Nations system. Let this workshop be more than an exchange of views. Let it yield concrete recommendations that our councils can take forward nationally and internationally through opinions grounded in evidence, through our convening power across sectors, and through partnerships that scale good practice. If we succeed, we will demonstrate that artificial intelligence can be made accountable to human intelligence, and that technological change, properly governed, can strengthen rather than fracture the social fabric. On behalf of AICESIS and our host council, the SER of Curaçao, I thank all participants here in Willemstad and online for your commitment and expertise. I extend particular appreciation to our partners from the ILO and UNESCO for their steadfast engagement in this agenda. I wish you a rigorous, candid, and fruitful dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobs, for those opening remarks. Now we have on the agenda, and I'm sure you all have the agenda. If not, I'm sure at the registration table they have some extra copies, because I'm not going to read everything that's there. We have, as a keynote intervention, we have the ILO, who's joining us online. We don't have the Director General himself, but on behalf of him, Mrs. Uma Rani, a senior economist, will address us about the AI, decent work, and the social contract. She will give us a global outlook. Mrs. Uma, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and thank you for welcoming me to this workshop. Can you see my screen?
We are seeing your screen, but not the presentation screen.
Oh, great. Can you see it now?
No, not yet. You'd have to share.
Not yet?
At the bottom of Zoom, you'll see a share button.
Enter. Can you see now?
No, not yet. Yep, it's come something. I see your desktop screen. No, I see the Zoom icons.
Can you see now the presentation?
No, I'm looking at your Zoom screen.
Okay, stop share. Sorry for this technical.
That's okay. You have to click on share and go to the PowerPoint presentation.
Share entire screen.
No, not entire.
Now?
Yeah, now. Yes, this
Yes?
is it. Correct.
Oh, great. Great. Thank you so much. So I'm stepping in on behalf of my Director General, Gilbert Humbo, and I try to speak slow and as advised, and I'll talk about AI, decent work, and social justice. Now, when we do talk about AI, there are two trends for workers and the future of work, but due to limited time, I'll focus only on the first trend, which is about the development of AI and the invisible workers who power the AI tools and products in the AI supply chains. And I know that the discussion that is going to be followed is going to touch upon some of these issues. Apart from this, there is a second trend, which is about how some of the algorithmic management practices that we do see on digital labor platforms, which use either AI tools or automated decision-making processes, are increasingly being seen in regular workplaces, which has quite a number of risks for the workers. And I'm happy to deliberate with all of you and share more slides around it if you're interested. Now, moving to the first trend that we talk about, there's a lot of talk around AI taking over jobs, and there's been a lot of anxiety about the automation and how this AI revolution is going to basically change. And there are a number of different types of estimates that have been coming, and this is not just today, but this has been a debate that's been going on for a very long time. Now, very clearly, many of these concerns have got reinvigorated over automation's implications for both the jobs and the labor market. And we all know that about a decade ago, when the study of Frey and Osborne came out, there was also this vision or this perception that many of the jobs are going to be automated and we are going to lose a lot of jobs. But that kind of a situation has not arisen, though it's been 12 years. Now you can see similar claims of an AI-driven transition to a post-work world, which is being talked about, that AI is going to take away a lot of jobs and we are going to move towards a society where there are not going to be any jobs. But however, the evidence that is there globally about the AI's impact on jobs is quite inconclusive, largely because this has to be very context specific and not generalizable. One of the reasons why it is inconclusive is because a lot of work is from AI exposure measures. They're not necessarily about AI adoption, and we do not know to what extent the AI is adopted and what kind of an AI that is adopted. There's a big question around that. A lot of evidence that is coming out is about the expert insights or patent data analysis, which is quite interesting, but we do not know whether these experts are within these firms or companies to give us the real picture about what's up. The third issue is around AI-generated exposure measures, which is being increasingly being used to show to what extent there is augmentation or automation that might happen. So we do not know if or when AGI will arrive, and in a world with unlimited needs and limited resources, we feel that employment opportunities will be shaped by comparative advantages, even if AGI were to outperform humans in all possible tasks. So this inconclusiveness remains. So while we talk about that part of the AI, there's also another part of AI which is very important, which is about how the AI development itself takes place. So I think that is where the narrative of the discourse is being increasingly challenged by researchers about what is being portrayed as AI and can we really question it and bring it under scrutiny? Because we know that there's a growing reliance of the AI industry on invisible and often precarious workers. And there's a dependence on human labor to produce or service AI, which we call it as heteromation, as it includes humans and automations. Our argument is basically that a development of AI system, there is an interaction between two types of labor. One is the algorithmic labor, which basically develops models and then tries testing and maintaining algorithms, including programming data analysis to ensure that the algorithmic model works. But for the algorithmic model to work, you do need data labor, and these are workers that contribute to myriads of tasks involved in creating, processing, refining data sets, which are required for training machine learning models, ranging from relatively simple tasks like tagging images or transcribing audio to specialized image annotation. And this is where a lot of this work is being done in the global south countries, either in business process outsourcing companies or on microtask platforms. And they're normally hidden from the end user. And what you often get is an AI product, but you do not know who's behind that AI product. Now, let me quickly turn to two examples to show you what a human labor in a AI supply chain would look like. And one of the examples is large language models, which many of us are familiar with, like, for example, the ChatGPT. And what's very important to understand is that there is a continuous exchange between algorithmic and data labor. From pre-trained LLMs, where you have language modeling, where you clearly have software developers who create the model, but there are also human annotators who determine whether the content infringes any of the community guidelines. Then you have supervised fine-tuning model, where you have data annotators who are the data laborers who draft questions and responses and give feedback to annotate response. And then you have reinforcement learning, where again you have a ranking of outputs in order of preference. So if you ask a question to ChatGPT and keep changing a bit the question and ask, you get a varied number of responses. So you have humans who go in and rank these outputs in order of preference so that workers actually get it. There's a post-development stage of a LLM, which is very important because any information that has to get out, you have to ensure that it's very well moderated in terms of content, And this is where you have a lot of content moderation work that is done by data annotators who rate and label outputs based on pre-specified criteria. I think what is very important for us to note is that AI, that is called, which is artificial intelligence, doesn't come out of a vacuum. It comes out of developers who very clearly develop the models and algorithms, but it also comes from very highly skilled workers who actually annotate data and feed a number of questions and answers into the system so that you get it. And at the phase two, you have a lot of PhDs who actually go and annotate and draft questions and responses, which are not available anywhere on the web. And that is how the data gets generated onto the large language models. Now, ChatGPT, OpenAI, one of the things that came out in 2023 was a focus on invisible workers and moderating content for Gen AI, where human verification becomes very important. And I think one of the issues that came up was, apart from the toxic content, was how low the wages that were paid to the workers. Now, the minute we talk about AI or Gen AI, we are interested largely in talking about replacing knowledge workers, and we get into the debate about augmentation or automation, or how do we replace routine or repetitive tasks, but we never go into the question of asking how did this AI development itself take place and what is the kind of labor that is engaged in it. And that's probably fundamental if we want to talk about decent work as well as social justice in a world that is already unequal. The second example I have is that of an autonomous car, where we always think that cars become autonomous because they are cameras, radars, lidars, and probably they are high definition maps and sensors. But I think what is very important to understand that all of that can be used, but a car does not become autonomous unless and until workers actually detect, classify, track, segment, and annotate data. What do I mean by that? This is a very nice example to show you that the perception system of an autonomous car that we talk about relies on machine learning algorithms that require large data sets, which basically includes image, video, audio, text. And on the right hand side, you'll find images where workers are basically going about annotating road signs, trucks, cars, and trees and footpaths and dogs and whatever they find on the roads. Unless and until these different signs are very clearly classified or detected or tagged, it becomes very difficult for an autonomous car to navigate onto the roads. And as many roads that we have, as much of annotation has to be done. There can be some level of machine learning that happens, but given a different country context, this actually takes a different form. And even when you do have autonomous systems, the decision making system is still very important. So, suppose that you have a system where tomorrow they decide to basically dig some roads and lay some pipes. Now, the Google can basically try to find out that this road is blocked, but it doesn't really tell you how to navigate it if it is an autonomous car. And this is where remote operators actually guide the autonomous vehicles through challenging system. And I think what is never known is the existence of the hidden human operators, which raises ethical questions about marketing autonomous vehicles as actually autonomous. The human cost of AI development, and this is where the whole question of decent work for us comes in. Now, if you look at demographics, a very large percentage of workers who are engaged in AI supply chain are highly educated, have STEM education based both on the global data as well as the country level data that we have in India and Kenya. And even when they are working in BPO companies, they do not have necessarily a kind of a contract that allows them to work from within the company, and many of them remote work. Now, the wages of these data laborers is quite interesting to see because despite high levels of education, these workers in developing countries experience significant wage disparities. And what's interesting is in both BPO companies as well as in platforms in Kenya, the wages are similar, while in India, workers in BPO companies earn less than that on microtask platforms, which is quite surprising because one would expect firms to give better incentives and better structures to their workers. The whole issues around working conditions of the data laborers, the pace of work, they're exposed to intense pressure to maintain a rapid workspace, and many of the workers do mention about how they have to complete a number of tasks within an hour without any hour break. What's become very important within this industry is a focus on speed and productivity. Now, this can have an impact on data quality as workers prioritize quantity over accuracy. And there's increasing chances of errors and inconsistencies in the data to train AI models, which further leads to the reliability issues of it. There are further occupational safety and health issues for many of these workers, either because they work late at night and do not have proper public infrastructure, or there are psychosocial risks because of the kind of content that they go about moderating. And workers are often alienated from their families as they sign non-disclosure agreements, which restricts them to share any information with their friends or family who would be providing support. Many of the workers cited work-related stress, unpredictable schedules due to unpredictable schedules, long hours, low pay, and heavy workload. There's also a larger question of devaluation of human capital and skills mismatch among these workers. And I think what's very important to note is these workers, which are highly educated, they're misled in the recruitment practices because they're told that the work is that of a data scientist or a translator. And when the workers actually get onto the job and they have signed the NDA, they realize that this has nothing to do with their expertise and this has got nothing to do with what they had been interviewed. So this brings us to the question about a number of moral and ethical considerations for this kind of work and the way the AI development is taking place. There's been some responses from Workers' Union both in the African region and Asian region and Latin American region, and also globally, but a lot more needs to be done. I think moving forward, what's very important to recognize is that you need to balance this efficiency and rights and harms and ensure social justice. I think there should be limits to AI and the need for auditing AI firms for ethical AI development and for deceptive AI. And this responsibility is not only with tech companies and vendors, but also with computer scientists. And it raises a very important development perspective issue for many workers in the developing global south, where digitalization should be helping highly educated workers to become catalysts for productive transformation and contribute to the advancement of their economy and societies. But what we see is that they are creating sweatshops of digital labor. How do we ensure that education remains a silver bullet? And for this, what's important is to refocus on employment policies linked to innovation and technology to achieve productive structural transformation that creates meaningful jobs. And I think this is where the role of social dialogue becomes very, very important, and it is very key to ensuring that we have social justice for all. And I think we need to continue this conversation to see how we can build a society that ensures social justice for all. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Uma. Thank you, Ailo, also for notwithstanding the times you're going through, being able to address us here, not in person, but you're here. So thank you for that. And thank you for not being taking too much of our time. Thank you for noting the time. That being said, now we're moving forward to our representative of UNESCO, who we would have loved to have here with us, but sometimes they say you can plan things, but things happen differently. She was planning on coming in from Jamaica, but nature decided otherwise. But she's been able to join us online, so we're very happy for that. Paula, enlighten us about governing AI for inclusion and trust. Paula, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and good morning or good afternoon, everyone. I would like to express, first of all, the gratitude for the messages of solidarity. Indeed, on Tuesday, Jamaica got hit by a hurricane category 5, which has left the western side of the country completely devastated. So I would have loved to be there with you, but it was just not possible. And I'd like to thank the team for constantly checking up. It means a lot, so thank you so much. I will start my presentation, which will be focused, I'm going to share my screen really quickly, which will be focused on looking at AI governance frameworks within the United Nations that can help guide countries in terms of developing policies and regulatory policies for AI. This presentation, I'll be focusing on 3 areas. One is just to understand better the ethical dimensions of artificial intelligence. 2, to explore the actions of multilateral organizations, particularly the United Nations, for ethical AI governance. And 3, provide some examples of work in action. So why is AI governance important? AI governance is important to harness AI that is at the service of humanity, right? In its service for advancing sustainable development while addressing risks and uncertainties as AI-related services, algorithms, and computing capacities expand across the globe. So why are we talking about ethical AI? Why are we talking about this notion? And so we know, and we've heard earlier today, that there's a rapid deployment of artificial intelligence. That AI needs to be fair, responsible, inclusive, and uphold human rights. We're looking at going beyond just technical performance, not just a tool, but about the values behind it, which was actually very interestingly shared by our colleague in ILO. Prioritizing transparency, accountability, and public good, while also avoid reinforcing historical inequalities and harmful outcomes. We have this potential that AI systems can strengthen or exacerbate inequalities that we've been trying to address through many years. And of course, we're looking, and this is just an example, but we are also looking at that notion of intersection of AI and human rights. When we're looking at human rights, there's the human right of the right to privacy, the right to non-discrimination, and the right to freedom of expression, which tend to be impacted by unchecked when we don't have guardrails in terms of AI. For example, in terms of collection and analysis of personal data that we don't know how it's being used, AI algorithms that can perpetuate different forms of biases and inequalities, and of course, that AI systems can influence information that is being shared or the impact to access to information. And of course, in this light, we're calling for the importance to have AI systems that are accountable, transparent, and that ensure informed consent. So as a quick example, we've done an exercise particularly in the field of education. If we look at the field of education, we can think about student data and surveillance tools. How are these tools ensuring that the right to privacy of students is upheld? There's also algorithmic bias in educational tools to ensure, for example, we have to uphold the right to non-discrimination of students, which can be done, for example, through some AI tools based on background or grades. And of course, the right to freedom of expression. There are some moderation tools that are used in the education setting that can limit the type of expression that young people can have online. So overall, what are we talking about when we're looking at bias in AI? Overall, this occurs when AI systems produce unfair, inaccurate, or discriminatory outcomes. We're looking at AI bias that could be historical because we're using previous data that reflects existing inequalities, or that there's data bias. This is always the case, for example, in countries that they don't have their own data sets or are not producing the AI systems. So there's an underrepresentation of certain population groups or outliers. There's algorithmic bias in how the designed choices unintentionally favor some groups versus others. And of course, there's human bias, which is the bias that's inherent in everyone when we're working, for example, in training AI tools. So what are some of the challenges that we foresee? Well, for example, we have the risk of bias overall, in general, that they replicate and amplify societal prejudice, surveillance, and how the data is used to monitor people without consent and the use of data, misinformation, that AI-generated content can spread fake news or misinformation. This is, for example, right now, there's information that is being shared about destruction sites in Jamaica that have been generated by AI, and people believe these are areas that have been destroyed. The exclusion, of course, there's vulnerable communities or marginalized communities or voices that are often left out of the development of these types of tools. And so this is just a quick example that what we did when we were preparing this presentation. If you go to your search bar, in just any search bar, you click on world greatest leaders, or you search for an image on schoolgirl versus schoolboy, what you get is really you see this bias right off the bat. So here, for example, when we did the test for world leaders, you can see that we only have men on this list, and there's not one single woman that was mentioned as the top 5. At the same time, when we're looking at images, we see this over-sexualized notion of a schoolgirl, but we have a boy that's going to school. So these are also elements that we have to take into consideration of why AI governance is important, because biased results are reflections of the data that AI has been trained, and then this, as a result, can then influence decision-making. But at the same time, there are opportunities. We're looking, for example, at personalized learning opportunities. This is particular for education, but there's also different opportunities for persons to learn and have this notion of lifelong learning. There's real-time feedback loops that can help persons develop certain skills. Accessibility, from a broader perspective, there's speech-to-text, text-to-speech options that expand the possibility of persons with disabilities to participate fully. We have across the board, there could be in institutions, administrative efficiency to facilitate certain repetitive tasks, and that could be also beneficial. And of course, particularly if we're looking at an education component, we're looking at early intervention. So if we have data on how a student is performing, then we're able to identify if a student has a specific learning need and be able to address that from the very beginning. So what is the UN role in global AI governance? Well, overall, we have the notion that the UN is providing an inclusive platform for dialogue. It contributes to anchoring AI governance in human rights, as I mentioned earlier, and to support the achievement of ADG. So, that AI has to be used for the public good. We're providing guidance to government initiatives, or to governments as a whole, to build trustworthy AI ecosystems, policies, frameworks that can guide the development of AI systems that are accountable, transparent, and really upholding human rights. But the UN also acts as a convener to help bridge participation and to amplify voices of those who tend to be unheard, especially of the global south, to expand knowledge production, to strengthen capacities, and also overall to provide policy guidance. So in 2021, UNESCO and UNESCO member states adopted by acclamation the recommendation on the ethics of artificial intelligence. This is the first normative document that guides countries as well as other stakeholders in developing inclusive, responsible, and ethical AI frameworks. And this was a groundbreaking document in its time and has been the source of inspiration for other documents that have come along as well. This document, which is available online, has a series of values and principles that are interconnected. We're looking at values such as the respect, promotion of human rights, ensuring the protection of the environment, diversity and inclusiveness, but also that AI is used for peace and justice. At the same time, we're looking at a series of principles such as doing no harm, safety, the right to privacy, transparency, awareness, and AI literacy through a multi-stakeholder approach. The recommendation provides actionable pathways, and in other words, normative guidance to translate the values and principles into policies, practices, and actions across multiple areas, whether it be data protection, whether it be looking at environment, economics, healthcare. There's an element within the recommendation that provides guidance on these aspects. And of course, as I mentioned, the recommendation is available, and it's not only for governments, but really also for civil society to ensure, for example, accountability or for governments, or also for private sector to ensure alignment so that their products have this ethical framework or mindset. Furthermore, and would like to provide emphasis or like to share a little bit about the UN Digital Compact. And this is important because it's a global framework for inclusive and rights-based digital governance, which was adopted last year in the Summit of the Future. And it sets global principles for digital cooperation in AI. So we're looking at closing digital divides, advancing data governance, enhancing AI governance overall, having more safe digital spaces, and the inclusion and strengthening inclusion in the digital economy. We're looking at the pillars of having a multi-stakeholder approach, of course, that has to be human rights based, and that it developed or suggests two institutional mechanisms, which I'll talk about later, but one is the scientific panel and the other one is a global dialogue on artificial intelligence. So this global compact will be mapping contributions from stakeholders, will be engaged, or countries have engaged to participate in high-level reviews and progress report throughout 2027, and to coordinate with existing UN structures so that the digital world has guidelines and guardrails for safe and inclusive governance. What are some specific bodies in AI governance? Well, the first one, which was established in 2023, was the High-Level Advisory Body on AI that was providing advisory to Secretary General Antonio Gutierrez and focused on advancing recommendations on international governance of AI. The findings from this advisory group were presented in the Summit of the Future last year. Stemming from the global digital global compact that I was mentioning, there's two elements that were just recently launched. This is really fresh news. It's the Global Dialogue on AI Governance, which was actually formally launched at the General Assembly Conference meeting in this last September. And it's a platform for states and stakeholders to discuss specific issues regarding AI. And it aims to bring, governments, but also private sector and civil society. And the first meeting, I believe, is scheduled to take place in 2026. In the same time, there's the Independent International Scientific Panel on AI. The applications are actually opened until tomorrow. And the idea would be to bring together or select 40 experts that can provide evidence-based scientific assessments related to opportunities, challenges, risks, and potentials of AI. So this will be actually something that will be developed over the next year. And these two elements then are really kind of linked to the Global Compact and will provide further guidance on AI governance for member states. What are some challenges ahead? Well, of course, we're looking at the rapid pace of AI development versus slower, government processes. The importance of AI literacy, strengthening capacities of national institutions,
Internet sometimes has its quirks, as we all know, and Jamaica being hit by the hurricane might have some extra challenges. Of course, we will be happy to share the PowerPoint with everyone. I think she was just nearing her end, but I think she already put very different frameworks that can be used as anchors for furthering developing our strategies for artificial intelligence ahead. And of course also heard of the ILO about how the developments and how especially on the labor part, how that happens. Now we are moving forward.
Ya aprobé el curso de nivelación.
Lo
empiezo el próximo mes. Ahora en noviembre ya arranco.
I don't think this is part of the workshop, but the microphone of the Dominican Republic is open, so please mute yourself. We're happy that you're here. But please mute yourself. Now we're going to the part of an expert panel. I'm going to ask for a few persons that are joining us in person here to move to the stage. But in the meanwhile, I can tell you, you could grab a coffee or something. Meanwhile, they're coming here. We have now a session that will be moderated by our Secretary General of AICESIS, Apostolos Sirafis. Please, Apostolos. We have some other persons on this panel who are going to join us. Online and some in person. We have here Mr. José Ignacio Conde Ruiz. He's the advisor at the Social Economic Council of Spain, who is here in person. Please join us on stage. We have, she is joining us online. We have Mrs. Glenda Quintini, the senior economist from the OECD. Glenda, glad to have you. We also have Mrs. Sabina Diwan, President, Executive Director of the Just Jobs Network. Mrs. Diwan, we're happy that you're here with us. We know that, and I want to share with you all, the time difference is huge, but she's joining with us anyway. It's about midnight in India, so she's very dedicated, and that's why we're very happy that she's joining us anyway. And we have also, that is a video, we have a pre-recorded video. We're very happy that he could do that for us. Mr. Hanif Navid, he's the Assistant Secretary General for ECOSOC Development Office and Undersecretary General. He will deliver a video that we have prepared. And we have in person, we have from the Economic and Social Council of Morocco, we have Mr. Amin Munir Aloui. Please, Amin, come forward. I see that Paula is sending, you're back. Paula is back, okay, well that's nice, but
I can share my presentation afterwards. I sincerely apologize. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, and much strength, and we'll keep in touch. Thank you again. Yes, Mr. Aloui, you're already here. And then we have Vasco Torres. Vasco, please. He's the director of the Inter-American School of Social Dialogue, Tripartism and Resolution of Conflicts. Please, Vasco, join us here. So now I pass this part over to Apostolos. The floor is yours, and the other panelists also.
Thank you, dear Miluska. You probably will be asking yourself, has Apostolos prepared his intervention with the help of AI? Yeah, I did, but up to a point, and I'm explaining myself. We are in the Caribbean, all right? and in the Caribbean, we are trying to, let's say, to navigate into metamodernity and explore the evolution of economic and social council and social dialogue into the sphere and the planet of AI. But we have the compass of Captain Sparrow, and which compass, if you have seen the films, the Pirates of the Caribbean, which compass did not show the north, but it was driven by intuition and Captain Sparrow's dreams. So I used a little bit AI, but what I'm saying to you right now, it would be impossible for AI to dream what I dreamt of. So, two guys, Sam Altman of the ChatGPT and the Chinese Yang Guangfeng created the DeepSeek. Have they paid any dollar or one for getting all the data on the web? No, but they're getting money out of this. And the issue is, what I'm trying to say, that AI is a system which is a close, is an oligopoly, but drives our lives. And the future may be, it will be so imposing to all the options of our lives. And at the end, when coming to institutions like ours, economic and social council and similar institutions, in our societies, do we, in the future, how the reports, recommendations, and avis that we are producing by dialogue among our members is it easy to be replaced by AI? I guess already the answer is yes. So how are councils, institutions will evolve to embrace or to change AI if they can? So not to take advantage of your time, and I would like to immediately pass and give the floor to Mr. Stefano Palmieri, who is a man with an experience and knowledge of social dialogue at the level of the trade unions, but at the level of the European Economic and Social Council. Mr. Palmieri, my question to you is the following. The Economic and Social Council has called for a pro-worker AI agenda. From your perspective, how can economic and social councils best shape AI governance to ensure it supports to workers' rights and the well-being in Europe?
Thanks, Apostolos, and ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, dear organizer. First of all, I want to thank AICESIS for the invitation to this workshop, and please let me say that I'm deeply sorry that I cannot be with you in Willemstad, but I hope that there will be another chance in the next future. I'm very happy to hear two impressive keynote speeches from Mrs. Rami and Mrs. Istritz that give us many food for thoughts for everybody. And I want to reply to your question, Apostolos, about what AICESIS is doing to facing this huge challenge for the artificial intelligence. It's reshaping work faster than any previous technological wave, changing tasks, skills, and power dynamics in the labor market. It's moving faster than many other business can keep up, leaving workers exposed and risk unaddressed. Job quality is at stake with the rising work intensity and the reduced autonomy due to algorithmic management. Workers are increasingly concerned about abusive surveillance, monitoring, loss of autonomy, and job security. And our committee has been promoting an ethical, inclusive, and transparent vision of the artificial intelligence, which respects the human in common principle, and it's encouraging to see our early recommendation reflected in the European Commission priorities and in the mandate of the Executive Vice President Rosanna Minziato. Our committee takes a balanced approach. We acknowledge that AI technology offers immense opportunity. We want more investment for an AI made in Europe and improve digital infrastructure access. At the same time, we want an artificial intelligence that respects our value, enhance inclusion and fairness. Many legislative efforts, such as General Data Protection Regulation, the AI Act, have been made at EU level, but they are not specifically designed to address workplace issues. The Platform Work Directive, adopted at the EU level, helps in some cases, but its scope is too narrow. The IC call on the European Commission to broaden the scope of its provision to cover all workers. At the request of the policy presidents of the European Union, the committee prepared an opinion on pro-worker artificial intelligence and another opinion on health and safety at work challenge in relation with artificial intelligence. We urgently need an EU-wide protection for workers, and we need to look at the current gaps and adopt legislative initiatives to protect worker rights at work. We must ensure that humans, not machines, stay in control of the decisions that affect people's lives. Mrs. Rami say about devaluation of human capital, devaluation of human being, and we must to stop this. We are pleased that the Commission has announced an initiative on algorithmic management. As we advance in AI, we must also prevent any biases that can embedded in this system to ensure fairness, equity, and diverse reality of our society. True digital inclusion means design an AI that uplifts vulnerable groups, and especially young people, women, and workers in precarious jobs, the invisible worker that mentioned Mrs. Rami and Mrs. Istruitz. To achieve that, social dialogue is key. Workers and their representatives must be really involved and part of the debate whenever AI is introduced in the workplace. Without trust, this technology will fail to reach their potential. The IC is recommending support social dialogue and the capacity building of social partners. In this new scenario, there will be more role for social dialogue and for civil society perspective on high governance. For social dialogue, institution, trade union, employer, organization, lead this transformation in a way that ensures inclusion, fairness, and shared prosperity. Social dialogue remains the most legitimate and effective means to equilibrate innovation and social justice. However, to stay relevant, social dialogue institutions must broaden their scope. Collective bargaining now needs to include algorithmic management, data governance, and AI-driven decision-making in workplace. That means moving from negotiating over pay and hour to also negotiating over data rights, transparency, and accountability in automated system. Good practices are emerging across Europe and beyond. We are seeing promising models. For example, agreement between unions and employers, such as those negotiated in the technology and logistics sector, which set the standard for the ethical use of algorithms, protect privacy, and require human oversight of automated decisions. National AI task force with social partners, as in countries like Denmark and Spain. Consultative roles in legislation. AI can deepen existing inequality if social dialogue fails to act inclusively. Institutions must therefore prioritize representation for vulnerable groups. This means ensuring women's voice in artificial intelligence policies body, supporting young people and precarious workers through inclusive reskilling program co-designed with employers, and using institutions to target digital divides. For instance, collective funds for lifelong learning that prioritize workers in small enterprise or low-paid sector. Looking forward, the most successful dialogue institution will be those that view AI not just a technological issues, but a social contract challenge. Social dialogue must evolve from negotiating around technology to negotiating about technology, ensuring that every worker, especially those most at risk, has a voice in shaping the digital future. From the point of view of civil society, AI is not just a technical or economic innovation. It is a profound social issue that touch on rights, democracy, and inclusion. AI governance must therefore go beyond regulating machine. It must regulate the power structure that design, deploy, and benefit from AI. Civil society organizations see AI governance as a human rights issue before anything else. Algorithmic systems affect access to jobs, education, healthcare, housing, and even justice. CSO argue for governance models that guarantee transparency and explainability of caused by biased or opaque system and redress mechanism so individual can challenge unfair outcomes. This is why right-based frameworks such the EU AI Act are widely supported by civil society, but they insist that implementation must be inclusive, enforceable, and backed by strong oversight bodies. governance should not be dominated alone, the autocracy. Civil society advocates for multi-stakeholder model, bringing in consumer group, digital rights NGOs, your network, disability organization, and trade union. These actors are watchdogs and community translator, ensuring that public interest, privacy, equality, and human dignity are not overshadowed by commercial or state interests. The civil society vision of the AI governance is clear: democratic, right-based, inclusive, and accountable. It insists that people, not algorithms, must remain at the center of the decision-making. This means building governance systems that are transparent to citizens, participatory in design, and equitable in impact, so that AI becomes a tool to strengthen human rights and social justice and not undermine them. From a civil society perspective, and I conclude, AI governance must ensure no decision about us without us. True legitimacy comes when those most affected by artificial intelligence, especially vulnerable and marginalized groups, have a real voice in shaping the rules that govern it. Thanks for your attention. Thanks again.
Thank you, Stefano, very much for your European insights. I keep your last sentence as the concluding sentence of your very interesting presentation. And allow me to give the floor now to Mr. José Ignacio Conde Ruiz to give us the national perspective from Spain and to give some answers on the question, the following question. So, based on the Spanish AICESIS recent report 2024, what are the most significant socioeconomic and labor impacts of AI and digitalization that Spain is currently facing, and how is your council addressing them? Please, José, give us your insights.
Bueno, muchas gracias. Yo voy a hablar en castellano, pero tengo la presentación en inglés para que me podáis seguir mejor. Nosotros en España tenemos que entregar todos los años, por un mandato constitucional, la situación socioeconómica y laboral de España. Entregamos la del año anterior y recientemente lo que hacemos es que dedicamos a un tema específico. Y justo en el último año que hemos hecho, le hemos dedicado al tema específico dentro de cada capítulo el cambio tecnológico. Entonces, sigue la misma estructura de las memorias que hacemos cada año, que tenemos que entregar al presidente del Gobierno y a la sociedad civil y al Parlamento, etcétera, pero cada capítulo lleva bueno, pues un tema específico del cambio tecnológico. Básicamente ahora estos son los 3 capítulos que hacemos, voy a dar una pincelada porque tengo poco tiempo y me quiero ajustar al tiempo que me habéis asignado, tranquila, pero digamos que en el primer capítulo está dedicado a la situación económica, macroeconómica de España y cuando hemos hablado en ese capítulo, ¿no?, del cambio tecnológico, digamos que la reflexión que hemos hecho ahí es que desconocemos mucho cuál va a ser el impacto macroeconómico que va a tener la inteligencia artificial y la automatización sobre las economías, se desconoce mucho, pero a priori tiene muchas potencialidades y en particular para afrontar el proceso de envejecimiento que están sufriendo todas las economías, pero las del viejo continente con mayor intensidad. ¿Por qué? Porque solo se puede generar bienestar en una sociedad envejecida si aumenta la productividad. Y sabemos que el cambio tecnológico, la inteligencia artificial, pues potencialmente puede ayudar a mejorar la productividad. Ese es un poco el resultado principal, ¿no?, del primer capítulo. En el segundo capítulo, que se centra más en la situación laboral de España, allí un poco lo que vemos es que es clave 2 cosas, ¿no? Por un lado, el cambio tecnológico, la inteligencia artificial va a obligar a reciclar capacidades, va a obligar a dar una formación continua a políticas activas. Puede hacerlo muy bien porque la inteligencia artificial permite personalizar, por así decir, la formación, el itinerario, etcétera, pero creemos que para gobernarlo todo bien tiene que jugar un papel muy relevante tanto el diálogo social como la negociación colectiva. Ese sería, por así decir, el resultado del segundo capítulo. Y el tercer capítulo es el que está dedicado más al impacto social y medioambiental. Y digamos que en este capítulo un poco entendemos que es fundamental que por mucho que haya inteligencia artificial, que sea gobernado por una inteligencia, una supervisión humana y que, por lo tanto, haya una cierta rendición de cuentas a quien tú puedes ir a rendirle cuentas una vez que ha llevado a cabo cualquier proceso que haya decidido. Y decimos también que es fundamental allí, entre otras cosas, pues la educación. Ahora voy a ir un poquito así por cada capítulo, pero 2-3 minutos, un poco más en detalle desarrollando estas ideas. Bueno, respecto al impacto de la inteligencia artificial o del cambio tecnológico, porque digamos que el cambio tecnológico, tal como lo vemos, tiene como dos patas. Tiene una pata que es la automatización, es decir, automatizar un proceso. Esto lo entendemos bastante bien porque ya se ha producido mucho en lo que sería un poco el sector industrial. Esto, digamos, que lo que está generando es tratar de sustituir el trabajador, y ahí sabemos quiénes son los trabajadores más afectados, cualificación media principalmente, y ahí las noticias no eran tan halagüeñas, ¿no?, como cuando empezamos a mirar la inteligencia artificial, que es distinto a la automatización. La inteligencia artificial, en principio, te complementa y puede complementar a todas las habilidades. Es decir, hemos pasado de pensar en que esto afectaría a cualificaciones a pensar que esto afectará a tareas. Y, bueno, digamos que la primera parte era más negativa con los datos que se veían de los empleos amenazados por la automatización. La segunda parte empezamos a darnos cuenta de que quizás no sea tan negativo y, pues, bueno, ya lo han dicho las personas que me han precedido antes, que son expertas en el área, esto puede generar otra serie de actividades, bajada de costes de producción, etcétera, ¿no? Cuando hemos mirado un poco cómo está España situada en cuanto a la inteligencia artificial, es fundamental entender cuál es la inversión en investigación y desarrollo e innovación. Si ponemos Estados Unidos, este es un indicador que hace el Fondo Monetario Internacional, Estados Unidos en el nivel 100, segundo estaría China. Bueno, España no está mal situado allí. Pero cuando hace un indicador un poco más sofisticado, ¿no?, que básicamente lo que te intenta medir es cómo estamos preparados para afrontar la inteligencia artificial, y para calcular este indicador pues tiene en cuenta las infraestructuras digitales, cuánto gastas en innovación, cómo está integrada tu economía, cuál es el capital humano que tienes, los problemas laborales, la regulación que tú tienes. Cuando vemos esto, España sí que ya está por debajo de los líderes, y en particular deberíamos mejorar en cuanto a capital humano y a inversión en investigación y desarrollo. Ay, perdón, que no he ido pasando. Este gráfico, era este. Luego hemos analizado un poco qué es lo que pasa con las distintas empresas y nos damos cuenta que hay muchas brechas, porque como podéis ver en este gráfico, sí que está subiendo, por así decir, cómo se está digitalizando las empresas. Va creciendo en un aumento bastante progresivo, pero son las empresas más grandes, las que veis allí, las que, por así decir, tienen una mayor prevalencia de lo que sería la digitalización. En particular, sabemos que las grandes empresas industriales son las que están mejor colocadas, pero también empezamos a ver que las empresas de servicios no turísticos, que en España nos están dando mucha alegría últimamente porque estamos siendo capaces de exportarlo en todos los países, pues vemos que empiezan poco a poco, ¿no?, a tener mucha más bueno, pues digitalización y sobre todo lo observamos también en lo que sería todo el tema del marketing y de las ventas. Pero indiscutiblemente lo que vemos también es que hay importantes gaps, brechas, y en particular las brechas son entre las ciudades y lo que sería el mundo rural o las ciudades pequeñas. No, se va quedando un poco por detrás. La segunda brecha es la que os he enseñado anteriormente de las empresas pequeñas que no acaban de despegar, pero digamos que esa es un poco la fotografía que estábamos viendo ahí. Y luego hay dos temas aquí que nos preocupan principalmente, que le hemos dedicado un poco de atención. Uno es la ciberseguridad, porque es verdad que con la inteligencia artificial tú puedes controlar mejor la ciberseguridad, porque te permite trazabilidad, etcétera, pero a su vez pues te pueden hacer que sea más eficiente los ataques cibernéticos que puedas sufrir, y por lo tanto aquí la supervisión humana es esencial, un poco para intentar controlar este tema. Y el segundo sería, como hemos dicho antes, la investigación y el desarrollo. Sabemos que eso está muy ligado, hay empresas ya que lo están viendo, farmacología, biotecnología, etcétera, son empresas. Lo que se ve es que es clave pues poder invertir en investigación y desarrollo para poder aprovecharte completamente de la inteligencia artificial. Y a nivel macro, un poco lo que vemos es que necesitas gobernarlo pero no frenarlo. Es decir, recientemente, hace 10 días, dieron el Premio Nobel de Economía a Moritz, a Howick y a Glion, los tres un poco lo que venían a decir era que el progreso viene con los cambios tecnológicos, pero que los cambios tecnológicos no los debes frenar, pero no debes pensar que no tienen perdedores. Es decir, ellos encontraban que para que el cambio tecnológico pudiera seguir avanzando, lo que tiene que estar ocurriendo es que la sociedad se preocupa con redes de apoyo a aquellos que se ven perjudicados. Es decir, no defendamos el status quo, sino avancemos, pero apoyemos un poco a los que se van quedando atrás. Yo creo que esta es un poco la lección macro que viene muy bien el premio Nobel que dieron este año, porque un poco recoge lo que nosotros hayamos reflejado en el informe. Esto sería un poco las pinceladas con respecto al capítulo primero. Con respecto al capítulo segundo, bueno, digamos que aquí lo que vemos es que los cambios, como decíamos, los empleos que se ven amenazados en España, por ejemplo, con respecto a la automatización, no había más que un 6% de los empleos amenazados. España no tiene realmente un sector industrial muy grande y, por lo tanto, digamos que esa parte de la automatización no nos estaba afectando tanto, pero en cambio sí que estamos muy expuestos a lo que sería la inteligencia artificial. Pero lo que es importante entender es que la inteligencia artificial, cuando un empleo está expuesto a los retos de la inteligencia artificial, no quiere decir que ese empleo vaya a desaparecer, ni mucho menos. Eso quiere decir que, bueno, que se va a ver expuesto a ella y parte de nos viene de cómo lo hagamos para que seamos sustituidos por ella o, al revés, estemos como complementándonos con ella, ¿no? La inteligencia artificial, en principio, si está mal gobernada, va a ir diseñada a sustituir al factor humano, porque puede ser una forma de abaratar costes. Pero si tú la gobiernas, puedes conseguir que no busques el abaratamiento de costes para sustituir factor humano por máquinas, sino lo que tú puedes hacer es decir, no voy a amplificar la productividad de los trabajadores, les voy a hacer como supertrabajadores, van a ser mucho más productivos de lo que eran antes y, por lo tanto, esa reducción de costes no se produce porque cambias la máquina, el factor humano por la máquina, sino porque ese trabajador es mucho más productivo que antes. Claro, para que esto ocurra, pues tienes que tomarte muy en serio todo lo que sería la formación, el reskilling, reciclaje de los trabajadores, etcétera, ¿no? Y bueno, hemos visto que España es un país que tiene mucha heterogeneidad en cuanto a la exposición a la inteligencia artificial. Pues claro, hay que hacer políticas activas no solamente mirando exactamente al trabajador, sino también mirando el territorio en el que se encuentra el trabajador. Cuando miramos un poco las dos cuestiones, la automatización y la exposición a la inteligencia artificial generativa, porque no parece que la otra esté todavía cerca, digamos que lo que vemos es que la automatización principalmente afectaba a los trabajadores, por así decir, cualificación media-baja, afectaba menos a las mujeres, porque estamos hablando de la automatización es más empleo industrial, mientras que la automatización, ahí sí que están más expuestos los trabajadores más cualificados. Que estés expuesto no quiere decir que te vaya a sustituir, sino que puedes ser tú más productivo. Y bueno, y que también en temas de género es importante porque la automatización no les afectaba tanto, pero la exposición a la inteligencia artificial en países como España, donde las mujeres no están en carreras STEM, sí que pueden estar viéndose afectadas negativamente. Como decía, aquí las claves de este capítulo serían unas políticas activas, personalizadas, con itinerarios hechos a la medida, utilizar la inteligencia artificial para ayudarles a darles las competencias necesarias de lo que están demandando las empresas, de las vacantes, etcétera. Y la única forma de hacer bien esto es con un papel importante del diálogo social a nivel europeo, el diálogo social también a nivel de España, y la negociación colectiva es reseñable. Yo creo que en España el acuerdo ANC, el quinto, donde se pactan la subida salarial, pues ya recogía algunas cláusulas para hablar de esta transición tecnológica. Yo creo que es un avance dentro de lo que es la negociación colectiva que España lo haya introducido tan pronto. Y ya, para concluir, que no me quiero alargar más, en el capítulo tercero, digamos, este capítulo está dedicado al bienestar y a la sociedad. Claro, aquí sí que hay muchos riesgos, como decíamos antes. No puedes dejar que nadie quede atrás, lo ha dicho también el representante de la Comisión Europea. Tienes que evitarlo, ¿no? Porque se va a ver gente afectado por ellos. Entonces buscas una inteligencia artificial, si quieres, que sea segura, fiable y sobre todo centrada en las personas. Yo creo que esto es clave. Si no se centra en las personas, lo que va a hacer la inteligencia artificial es tratar de reemplazar a las personas. Y esto es lo que va a generar muchos problemas. Y bueno, digamos que estas son un poco las claves y encontramos varios aspectos, y ya con esto prometo que termino, es que el algoritmo tiene que estar gobernado, tiene que tener fiabilidad y sobre todo tiene que tener rendición de cuentas. Tienes que saber qué es lo que ha pasado y para eso tiene que ser transparente. Si un algoritmo toma una decisión, no puede ser que la responsabilidad sea del algoritmo. Tiene que haber una persona con cara y ojos que responda ante lo que ha hecho el algoritmo. Esto, como bien ha explicado la representante de la UNESCO, creo, es fundamental cuando estamos hablando de políticas de género. Ya he puesto ejemplos aquí, pero parece que si haces una promoción utilizando la inteligencia artificial y ha elegido al hombre frente a la mujer, tenemos que saber por qué lo ha hecho, porque sabemos cómo funcionan estos modelos de Large Language Models. Lo que hacen es miran al futuro viendo lo que ha pasado en el pasado. Si en el pasado había discriminación, lo único que vas a conseguir es replicar la discriminación con la que has nutrido el modelo hacia adelante. Y claro, para esto la educación es fundamental. Yo creo que el sistema educativo tiene que cambiar por completo. Yo soy profesor de universidad y claro, yo he ganado mucha productividad. Yo hay muchas cosas ahora que ya no las hago yo, me las hace mi inteligencia artificial. Eso me libera de tiempo para poder hacer otras cosas. Es decir, no es que me va a sustituir, pero yo tengo más tiempo para dedicar a otras cosas. Pero hay que tener cuidado porque ahí puede haber sesgos según cómo se esté enseñando, puede haber problemas de propiedad intelectual, etcétera, ¿no? Y bueno, por último, mencionar que también va a afectar también a las prestaciones, a la seguridad social, etcétera, porque vas a poder hacer trazabilidad, vas a poder hacer de una forma mucho más clara, diseñar mucho mejor todas tus políticas, ya no activas, sino también pasivas, de apoyo, porque esto es uno de lo que te permite hacer la inteligencia artificial. Y por último, este capítulo siempre lo hemos dedicado al cambio climático. Siempre nos preocupamos mucho de lo que está pasando allí y es evidente que la inteligencia artificial también puede ser de gran ayuda aquí. Es decir, no solamente ayudar a afrontar el envejecimiento mejorando la productividad, sino ayudar a afrontar el cambio climático porque podemos hacer una mejor asignación de los recursos a la hora de producir, ¿no? Y perdóname que he tenido 2 minutos, me voy a parar aquí. Muchas gracias por su atención, la verdad.
Thank you very much, José. You gave us an evidence-based analysis, and we thank you very much for that as a good example of a good paradigm. Now, allow me to call Mr. Glenda Quantini to take the floor and give an answer to the following question I have the honor to address here. The OECD emphasizes the role of social dialogue in managing AI. For the transitions towards AI, what does your research suggest are the most effective ways unions and employers can work together to shape AI adaptation responsibly?
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. I hope you can hear me. So while I put on the presentation, maybe I should say that I probably have 2 hats here, or wait, is it sharing? Yes, I think you can see it now. So I have 2 hats here. So the first hat is that I am the head of the Global Deal Support Unit. So, and then I'm also a head of division at the OECD, where I lead the division that works on skills and future readiness. So in both cases, AI is a big part of our program of work. So the Global Deal is a multi-stakeholder partnership which brings together employers representatives, workers representatives and unions, governments and civil society. We have 150 partners now. It's not just the OECD, but it's also the ILO and the government of Sweden, who originally founded the partnership in 2016. And so the point is really to highlight the role of social dialogue to achieve more decent work and inclusive growth. And of course, in many, the origin also, the reason why the global deal was created was, let's say, an observation that the future of work and changes in the labor market were happening fast, and that social dialogue could provide some answers and help both firms and individuals reap the benefits, but also address some of the risks. So last year we organized a focus group that was specifically focused on artificial intelligence. Actually, Sabina, the one who speak after me, was the chair of that focus group. And in these focus groups, we bring together, as I said, all our partners, so representing employers, workers, civil society, and governments, and discuss the topic really in a very practical way. So see what's happening, what are the latest initiatives. We bring in research from the OECD, including from my division at the OECD, and then from the ILO. And I'm gonna cover a little bit what we did in that focus group and what were the conclusion of the focus group. So in the end, we did publish a note. You see the cover page here, and I can share the link later. We had sessions looking at taking stock of the AI adoption in the workplace and how social dialogue could play a role. We also focused a lot on the AI divide within and across countries, and then, as I said, the role that social dialogue stands to play. So if we look at adoption, I'm not focusing on numbers of how much automation, augmentation there's going to be. I'm going to focus really on social dialogue. You see here the results from a survey that we led at the OECD, where we ask both unions and employers to tell us what are the main opportunities and risks of AI adoption. You can see that more or less the social partners are aligned, but with different priorities. You can see that if you look at the perceived risks for trade unions, the biggest risk is the trustworthy use of AI, which scores fairly high also for employers. But for employers, by far the biggest concern is changing skill requirements. And as many others have said before me, do we have the workforce we need to adopt AI successfully in the workplace? On the other side, if we look at the benefits, you can see that for employers, the biggest benefit is increased productivity gains, including as well higher job safety, while for unions, the two biggest perceived benefits are higher job quality and also the creation of new tasks and jobs. So also unions, of course, recognize the big opportunities in terms of making jobs safer, at least physical safety through the use of AI, and a possibility to change jobs, for example, automate physical tasks and create new, more enriching tasks. There are, however, risks of deepening inequalities. I think some have been mentioned already. There's big divides across countries, but also within countries. So I'm going to show you a few figures on both. One significant threat is the unequal adoption of AI across countries, which means that then the risk of automation or augmentation across countries is different. In this chart, you see both the share of jobs potentially affected by generative AI. So this comes from the ILO. As I said, we're a partnership, so we bring in results both from the OECD and the ILO. And then you see the share at risk of being automated and of being augmented. And so because the adoption tends to be further behind in lower middle income countries and low income countries, then you have a bit less risk of automation, but you also have less opportunity for augmentation of jobs through the use of AI. Another important issue that I think has been mentioned already, so maybe I'll be brief so we catch up on some of the time, because I think we're a little bit behind, is that there are new forms of inequalities that are arising because workers and companies in advanced economies and developing countries have different resources to devote to AI system. There's a growing pool of outsourced and precarious and invisible workers. I think the person before me called it an invisible workforce from developing countries. and for more vulnerable groups within developed countries, including migrants and refugees, which are either subject to algorithmic management practices when they perform repetitive tasks, and also maybe subject to mental health implications if they are developing training sets that make them exposed to harmful content. And so protecting labor rights along the AI value chains, not just the leading companies, is essential so that all workers, regardless of where they are working and how they're employed and what kind of AI exposure they have access to decent working conditions. So this is an issue. I think the role, the importance of considering the divides throughout the value chain, something that we don't often look at, which is very important. As I said, there isn't just differences between countries, there's also differences within countries. So this comes from the same survey that I showed you in the first slide. Here we ask employers what they consider how they see AI affecting, so helping or harming certain groups. And you can see that already employers fear that older workers and low-skilled workers might be negatively affected by AI, probably for different reasons, but in both cases probably related to a lack of skills to be able to adapt to the use of AI in the workplace. And then for low skilled workers, also more exposure because they tend to be in lower skilled jobs. But there is potential, so employers see a lot of potential. I think this has been mentioned as well by the person from the ILO and UNESCO. I think a lot of potential for AI to help workers with disabilities in learning, in work. So we're doing a lot of work also looking at that potential. There are several risks that can be addressed through social dialogue. So AI has implications regarding occupation and skills. So we've heard those in terms of the quantity and the quality of jobs. So this is more about the quality, and it is important to better understand and measure the impact of AI on jobs. And I think always when we look at trying to foresee changes in labor market needs and skill needs, we see that the best systems actually involve all social partners. So they involve employers, they involve unions in those assessments of how the labor market is changing, so that you can then develop solutions, training and adaptation of occupational profiles, for example, and training profiles that are already a consensus among the different partners. We need to understand also the impact of AI on agency, on privacy, and on personal data. Again, this is something that's been said before, ensuring always human oversight. I think the person before me says somebody with hands and a face, which is a good sum up of what human oversight means. Ensure that workers have the possibility to contest decisions, protect the data, and ensure the ethical use of AI systems. Again, all areas in which unions and employers can play a key role. Then it's other risks are related to the impact on human and labor rights. For example, addressing the implications on occupational health and safety. So there's many positive implications. Many AI systems are actually replacing dangerous or physically demanding tasks, but there's new risks more related to mental health, for example, related to potentially algorithmic management, issues related to equality and discrimination, or working time and wages monitoring, for example. And then I think we did in the group find already that there was a lot of advancement in terms of the role of social dialogue and the involvement of social dialogue in the workplace. Again, the survey that I mentioned before, which is a survey we ran in my division at the OECD, finds that when we ask workers how AI has affected their job, the vast majority say that it's actually improved it. It has improved their performance, their mental health, and their productivity their enjoyment at work. When we asked them whether they had been consulted, and when we asked them whether they had received a training to adapt to the use of AI, there's even more among those who have been consulted and those who have received training. The share saying that their productivity, their enjoyment of work, and their mental health has improved increases further. So this highlights the importance of directly social dialogue, but also the importance of training, which again is often a joint responsibility of employers and unions representatives. Then, of course, collective bargaining also, social dialogue also has the scope to intervene through collective bargaining. There's a lot of elements of ethical and safe and responsible adoption of AI that can be stipulated in collective bargaining, like safeguarding workers' rights, ensuring the transparency in development of AI, setting standards on data privacy and algorithmic management. And again, social dialogue can play a key role through collective bargaining. Now, what are the obstacles to this? Well, of course, it's important that social partners have the ability to effectively engage in dialogue and cooperation. So sometimes there's a lack of expertise. We're all learning about AI. It's developing faster than we can learn about it. But there are many interesting initiatives. So at the focus group, for example, we discuss several repositories that some unions or other institutions are putting together, where the first clauses related to AI in collective bargaining are collected, so that other unions and employers negotiating on AI can use and see how this has been incorporated in other agreements. So there's a lot of operational tools also at the enterprise level to accompany the introduction of AI systems. There's a lot of the unions can play an advisory role as well, a key role in awareness campaigns, calling for the introduction of new rights, or providing guidance through framework agreements. And then finally, what is needed? What are the key objectives here for the involvement of social dialogue in the safe, ethical, and responsible adoption for AI? So I'm drawing here from the G7 Action Plan on AI, which we developed at the OECD and EILO together with the Italian presidency of the G7, which says that these are the three clauses more directly related to social dialogue, which says that that we should promote the active involvement and consultation of workers and workers' organization, supporting the development of AI-related expertise and skills. As I said, many social partners don't have enough expertise or understanding of AI to negotiate collective bargaining agreements that include some safeguards related to AI, and promoting social dialogue and collective bargaining at all levels, including on the development, the deployment, and the monitoring of AI. And I will stop here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. For the outstanding survey you have been working on, many of our councils are members of the global deal, you know that. And ICESIS is willing to continue this cooperation. All right. Thank you very much, Glenda. Now, let me ask Mrs. Sabina Dewan for the Just Jobs Network to give some thoughts on what are the stakes of AI challenges from the Global South perspective. Please, you have the floor. But please stay on the time frame, as you are all exceptional speakers, but the time frame is limited. So please stay on, to that.
Yes, gladly, Chair. Thank you so much. And my gratitude to ICES for the information. I really, for the invitation, pardon me. I wish I could be there in person. I'll start just by introducing very quickly the Just Jobs Network, which is a global research organization that provides rigorous data and information from the ground to underpin effective public policy and governance of labor markets. A big part of our work is actually studying how major forces of change, like artificial intelligence, are upending the way that you and I, that we live and work, and what needs to happen to manage these changes and to help workers, businesses, and economies adapt in this era of very rapid and unprecedented change. I also, as Glenda mentioned, served as a senior advisor to the Global Deal and had the honor of chairing the sessions that Glenda just spoke about. So I will keep my intervention relatively short today. I don't have a PowerPoint presentation, and I really just want to make 3 points. So my first point is that artificial intelligence, as we already heard by multiple speakers today, will deepen inequality. And in fact, this is already happening. There's a lot of noise about AI's impact on jobs, economies, and on humanity, in fact. And whenever these debates get very loud, people tend to compare this wave of technological advancement with the past ones. And if we stay with that for a second, what history actually tells us is that every new technology has actually amplified inequality, right? Electricity divided the world between those that have it and those who don't. There are many parts of the world that are still struggling to achieve electrification. Nuclear power created a divide between nations that possess it and those that don't. Computers and information technologies created a digital divide along lines of those that could afford and had the wealth to afford these technologies, and those that had the skills to actually use them, and those that did not. Social media has divided us between those who control the data and our feeds and those who merely consume social media. So there's little reason to believe that AI will actually be different. It is already deepening divides as we speak. And these divides will be between those that have the education to participate in a technologically driven economy and an AI-driven economy, and those that don't have those skills. The divide will be between countries that have a seat at the table in the governance of AI and those that do not. The divides will be between those that collect and monetize the data and those that do not. Against this backdrop of inequality, countries must build social architecture now to counter these disruptions that are inevitable. And what this means is that governments must proactively steer AI innovation and deployment to ensure that it augments rather than simply replaces human labor. We need a toolbox of policies for human-centric AI development, best practices for social dialogue between firms, workers, and governments, better inclusion of workers' voices in decisions about AI use, and fiscal and regulatory tools, including tax and competition policies, to create a more effective governance and a global environment where we can check some of these inequalities. It also means building institutions for social security, strengthening social dialogue, and reforming education and skills training systems. So that was point one. Point two is that, a lot of the discourse is focused on whether AI will destroy jobs. And the fact of the matter is, as we heard from the ILO this morning, that we cannot know. It is inconclusive. But what is certain is the disruption that AI is bringing. The truth is that nobody can definitively estimate how many jobs AI will create and how many it will destroy. But that doesn't mean that AI isn't having a deeply disruptive impact on employment right now. We are seeing it. Amazon, Microsoft, Salesforce, Cisco, DocuSign, Infosys, Wipro, these are all companies that are in the news because they have recently laid off workers due to cost-cutting, efficiency drives, strategic reallocation of resources toward AI. And it's not in the interest of these companies to outright reveal how many workers they anticipate having to lay off because of exposure to AI. The inconclusiveness is also because we lack data from developing countries and the global south. These countries have large informal sectors where many workers, especially women, are invisible in the data. They have heterogeneous labor markets where impacts are difficult to discern, and they lack subnational data. And the hard truth is that we cannot skill our way out of these disruptions. Not only is there a digital divide, but large shares of the population in developing countries simply do not have the requisite levels of education to participate in a high skill-based AI-driven economy. My final point, Chair, is that this is not just about inequality within countries, but also between them. When it comes to AI, global governance must ensure that there's meaningful involvement from developing countries in AI governance. The numbers tell us the story. The high cost of developing and running AI models poses a serious barrier to developing countries participating. Only 2 of the 109 leading AI models come from developing countries. 73% of large AI models are developed in the US, 15% in China, and a mere 12% in the rest of the world. Developing countries are under-resourced with limited political and technical capacity to govern AI effectively. And this is a recipe for a world where AI benefits accrue overwhelmingly to a handful of countries and a handful of people, while the costs, job displacement, disruptions, and inequality are borne by a far wider share and group of people. In closing, Chair, I will say that in no time in the past have the very pioneers of a technology unequivocally warned us of the magnitude of the disruptions that are emerging. Geoffrey Hinton, Stuart Russell, these pioneers are all ringing alarm bells, and we would be wise to heed them. The question isn't whether AI will disrupt employment and deepen inequality. We are already seeing the effects. But the question is, can we build a social compact, the institutions, the policies, the global governance that is necessary to ensure that this disruption doesn't devastate workers, businesses, and economies, especially in the global south. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Sabina, for your message. Thank you very much. Now let me pass the floor to Your Excellency, Mr. Hanif Navid, from UN ECOSOC. He's connecting. Is he online? A recorded message. All right. Okay, let's us hear the message.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, colleagues and friends, it is a pleasure to join you virtually for this important conversation on artificial intelligence, social dialogue, and the renewal of the social contract. First, let me commend AICESIS and the Economic and Social Council of Curaçao for convening this timely global forum. With so many national economic and social councils in your network, you are uniquely positioned to connect the voices of governments, employers, workers, and civil society. Exactly the kind of dialogue we need to shape a future that is inclusive, sustainable, and just. We all feel it, that we are at a turning point. Artificial intelligence and frontier technologies are transforming our economies, our societies at breathtaking speed. AI holds enormous promise for productivity, innovation, and public service delivery. But it also carries real risks: widening inequality, weakening labor standards, and eroding trust in public institutions. AI must serve people, not the other way around. The UN Secretary General's Our Common Agenda call for a renewed social contract, one that restores trust, fairness, and solidarity. The challenges of AI and digital transformation make this renewal urgent and inevitable. So how do we get there? Let me suggest 3 key avenues for your consideration. First, we must rebuild the social contract to match the realities of the digital economy. It must drive upward mobility. It must be anchored in equity, economic security, and solidarity. Technological progress should be inclusive and leave no one behind. Progress isn't progress if it doesn't protect people. That means we must pursue policies that guarantee decent work, fair wages, and social protection for everyone, including workers whose jobs are being reshaped by AI. Second, digital inclusion must be central to the social contract. Right now, 2.6 billion people are still offline. That is 1 in 3 human beings on this planet. Bridging the digital divide is essential, but inclusion is more than connectivity. It means digital skills, meaningful access, and affordable technologies, particularly for women, youth, informal workers, and marginalized groups. The UN DASA e-government survey shows something critical. When digital systems are built on accessibility, transparency, and accountability, they rebuild trust and strengthen the social contract. Digital inclusion is the new frontier of social justice. Third, we must strengthen global coordination and governance. AI governance cannot be left to chance or competition. We cannot allow a race to the bottom. Instead, we must aim for a race to the top in labor standards, ethics, and digital rights. Ladies and gentlemen, no country can face AI's systemic risks alone. Inclusive global cooperation under the United Nations is essential to ensure that AI supports decent work and social justice rather than undermining them. The UN Global Digital Compact offers a shared roadmap for this purpose. Within the UN system, initiatives like the Technology Facilitation Mechanism and the STI Forum are aligning technology, development, and equity. The ongoing World Summit on Information Society Plus 20 review provides a timely platform to harness digital technologies with proper guardrails for safety, ethics, and inclusion. AI governance must be global because AI's impact is universal. Ladies and gentlemen, looking ahead, our societies face a defining question. Will we allow AI to erode trust and deepen inequality? Or will we renew the social contract so that technology becomes a force for inclusion, justice, and sustainability? I firmly believe the latter is possible. Throughout history, humanity has faced transformative changes, but we have built new norms, protections, and institutions. We can do it again, this time with AI, for current and succeeding generations. We can do it through dialogue, cooperation, and collective action. We can ensure that AI becomes a force for dignity and justice for everyone, everywhere. Thank you, and I wish you a productive meeting.
Great. Mr. Hanif Navid is a friend of AICESIS at the UN ECOSOC, and let me allow me to pass the floor to Mr. Amin Munir Alawi from the Economic and Social and Environmental Council of Morocco, and to ask him to give us his insights on the following question. From your experience in the Economic and Social Council of Morocco, which is a leading country in Africa, what are the main challenges and opportunities for ensuring AI contributes to inclusive development, and how can economic and social councils, similar institutions, bridge the digital divide, and from the perspective of Global South?
Thank you. Well, first of all, to give a touch of glamour, I will have my speech in French. And it will also balance the workload between the translators to English and the others, which is good for equality of all workers. Donc, je vais parler plutôt en français, si vous me permettez. Merci, Président, pour cette introduction rapide. En fait, ça fait 38 ans que je travaille autour de l'intelligence artificielle. Donc je suis un petit peu impacté par le fait qu'on en parle autant aujourd'hui. C'est un vieux machin qui fonctionnait bien, personne n'en entendait parler jusqu'à ce que quelqu'un comme ChatGPT le mette à la disposition du public. Mais en fait, c'est une technologie qui arrive. Et donc, j'ai pensé partager avec vous aujourd'hui tout ce qui se passe lorsqu'on a une technologie disruptive, d'un point de vue social et d'un point de vue professionnel. Là, l'illustration, c'est probablement la première technologie disruptive, c'est le feu. La première fois que le feu est arrivé, ça a été une technologie disruptive pour l'humanité, puisqu'on est passé d'animal chassé à animal chassant qui permet. Alors, qu'est-ce que ça permet, une technologie disruptive? Il y a 3 points qu'il faut retenir. C'est tout d'abord une technologie qui va permettre d'avoir une meilleure survie et plus de puissance. Ça, c'est le premier point pour toutes les technologies disruptives. Il y en a certaines qui ont été mentionnées par une collègue auparavant. Ensuite, c'est une technologie qui apporte des changements majeurs. Et ça, c'est également le cas, on verra. Et puis, bien entendu, avec ces changements majeurs, automatiquement, on a des modifications sociales profondes. Les normes changent. Si je prends le feu, le premier homme qui a su allumer un feu avait une position sociale qui a complètement changé par rapport à ses collègues. La problématique, c'est que partant de là, automatiquement, un certain nombre de craintes arrivent. On a peur pour son travail, on a peur pour sa position, on a peur pour sa puissance, on a peur, et on a peur parce qu'on ne sait pas où on va. Et les craintes, donc, sont importantes. Tout cela, on les retrouve systématiquement, donc quelques éléments un peu plus précis, donc modifie les équilibres de puissance. Changement, c'est un catalyseur pour les transformations de la société. Lorsqu'on a un changement, la société change plus rapidement, il y a des évolutions qui ne sont pas forcément prévues. Et puis les normes sociales sont nouvelles avec ces technologies disruptives, on a de nouvelles attentes, ça impacte les valeurs, hein, on n'a pas forcément la même continuité sur les valeurs et les comportements sont totalement modifiés. J'y reviendrai sur l'intelligence artificielle et les craintes, donc là j'en ai parlé tout à l'heure, je ne vais pas y revenir. Le point peut-être le plus important ici, c'est la redéfinition des pouvoirs. Les pouvoirs ne sont plus les mêmes, ne sont plus aux mains des mêmes. Qui connaissait OpenAI il y a 3 ans? Personne. Aujourd'hui, c'est l'entreprise qui va dépasser le 1000 milliards de dollars et on ne sait pas comment ils vont les rembourser. Donc si on prend l'intelligence artificielle de manière spécifique, est-ce qu'elle est disruptive? Oui, parce que c'est une évolution technologique importante au niveau de la puissance et les investissements, comme je viens de dire, sont énormes. Aujourd'hui, Sam Altman, le patron d'OpenAI, est devenu l'un des hommes les plus puissants du monde, ce qui ne l'était pas il y a 5 ans. Les changements, on a une nouvelle façon de travailler, je ne vais pas répéter tout ce qu'ont dit les collègues auparavant, mais de nouvelles façons de travailler, de nouveaux jobs et réorganisation des entreprises. Et là, je voudrais pointer, parce qu'il y a eu beaucoup d'éléments qui ont été mentionnés aujourd'hui, je voudrais pointer une étude que je pourrais partager avec vous du MIT, donc d'une université plutôt qui donne des études intéressantes sur les entreprises américaines qui ont implémenté l'intelligence artificielle. Et bien, contrairement à ce que beaucoup de gens disent, 95%, c'est les résultats du MIT, 95% de ces entreprises n'ont aucun retour sur investissement. Donc le fait d'avoir investi dans l'intelligence artificielle n'a servi à rien pour eux d'autre qu'à dépenser de l'argent. Pourquoi? Parce que cette implémentation s'est faite, alors je vous laisserai lire le rapport, s'est faite de manière peut-être pas bonne, mais en tout cas l'intelligence artificielle n'a pas aidé l'entreprise à être plus productive. Ça c'est clair. Par contre, la même étude montre que 80% des travailleurs utilisent l'intelligence artificielle, mais pas celle que l'entreprise a voulu implémenter, leur intelligence artificielle. Alors c'est assez intéressant parce que dans le débat que nous avons au niveau justement de la puissance, du pouvoir, des normes sociales et de la relation, du contrat social, ça veut dire quoi? Ça veut dire que c'est le travailleur qui a le pouvoir de l'intelligence artificielle et non pas l'entreprise, puisque c'est lui qui utilise cet outil-là pour être plus efficace dans les entreprises. Je crois que c'est un peu moins de 400 entreprises qui ont été étudiées. Et dans ces entreprises-là, c'est le travailleur qui a pris le pouvoir de l'intelligence artificielle. Et ça, c'est quelque chose que l'on devrait peut-être creuser un peu plus à notre niveau parce que le contrat social, justement, change. Ces travailleurs vont avoir du pouvoir et pouvoir changer d'entreprise, augmenter leur salaire. Et ce n'est pas forcément tout le monde, mais c'est un certain nombre de gens. Au niveau des normes sociales, c'est clair qu'aujourd'hui, les relations ne sont pas les mêmes à cause ou grâce à l'intelligence artificielle. L'acquisition et la transmission du savoir ont fondamentalement changé, puisque aujourd'hui, je suis prof, il y en a peut-être quelques-uns qui sont dans la salle, aujourd'hui les étudiants travaillent de manière complètement différente, parce qu'ils ont tout le pouvoir d'accéder à des connaissances, non seulement à des connaissances, mais même à des raisonnements qu'ils n'avaient pas il y a quelques années. Donc aujourd'hui, il y a un changement, et toujours au niveau de l'école, de l'université, on peut avoir cet aspect de valeur et d'éthique qui est largement impacté. Comment est-ce que les étudiants utilisent ces nouveaux outils à la place du plagiat? C'est-à-dire aujourd'hui, ils demandent à l'intelligence artificielle de faire leur travail et ils le donnent comme si c'était le leur. Et là, il faut absolument arriver à les faire évoluer vers autre chose. Bien entendu, les craintes sont énormes. Est-ce que l'humain va rester humain? Les analyses prospectives sont divergentes, très largement. D'ailleurs, au niveau de notre conseil, nous avons publié l'année dernière un rapport sur l'intelligence artificielle. Et le principal problème que nous avons eu, c'est que toutes les études que nous avons vues étaient divergentes. On avait des études qui disaient qu'on va créer 100 millions d'emplois et des études qui disaient qu'on va détruire 100 millions d'emplois. Quand on a cette variation, ça veut dire tout simplement qu'on ne sait pas. Mais il faut avoir l'honnêteté de dire « je ne sais pas ». Ça, c'est quelque chose d'important et que l'avenir va nous dire ce qui se passe. Mais il est important pour nous, en tant que conseil économique et sociaux et institutions similaires, de faire la veille nécessaire pour être en amont des changements qui sont en train de se produire. Et parmi les choses que nous avons dites, d'ailleurs, dans le rapport, c'est qu'on ne sait pas quels sont les changements, mais qu'il faut continuer à surveiller, à comprendre ce qui est en train de se passer pour ne pas être à la traîne de ce qui risque d'arriver. 3 axes majeurs par contre, et là je pense que ça a été déjà dit, je ne vais pas insister énormément dessus. Premier axe au niveau des recommandations que nous avons fait dans le rapport, c'est la gouvernance, la régulation et l'éthique. Je pense qu'on en a beaucoup parlé aujourd'hui. La deuxième, c'est que l'industrie et le secteur public doivent utiliser ces outils parce que quand ils leur permettent d'être plus efficaces, pas toujours, pas forcément n'importe comment, comme je vous l'ai dit, l'étude du MIT, c'est 95% des entreprises qui n'ont aucun retour sur investissement. Et le troisième axe, c'est l'appropriation par la formation et la recherche. Par la formation et la recherche qui permet, même aux pays du Sud global, alors ça c'est pour répondre à mon ami Apostolos, même pour les pays du Sud global, d'avancer très rapidement. Nous avons aujourd'hui des entreprises au Maroc qui utilisent l'intelligence artificielle de manière assez intéressante et qui leur permettent d'être de bons concurrents au niveau international. Je pourrais en citer en particulier Intelsia, vous pouvez aller voir, c'est l'un des leaders mondiaux de la relation client qui utilise l'intelligence artificielle pour être plus efficace. J'ai un message, mais ça c'est à titre personnel. Avec toutes ces technologies, ces disruptions, etc., essayons de rester humains et de garder nos relations et de faire en sorte que nous nous voyions, nous nous rencontrions. Merci au CES de Curaçao de nous permettre justement de garder ce lien social qui est extrêmement important et qui permettra de construire de manière plus humaine notre avenir et celui de nos enfants. Merci beaucoup.
Merci à toi, cher ami. Amine, nous apprenons toujours de vous. Now let me give the floor to Professor Vasco Torres de León from the Escuela Interamericana de Diálogo Social, Tripartismo y Resolución de Conflictos please tell us about digital divide and how scientific methodology, which is in principle grounded on objectivity, can illuminate the phenomena in the frame of Latin America's reality, and most specifically, how social dialogue institutions in Latin America is facing the challenges of the AI for the sake of our Latin America's peoples. Professor, please, you have the floor.
Muy bien, buenas tardes, muchas gracias en primer lugar por la invitación que nos hiciera la Asociación de Consejos Económicos y Sociales, especialmente en la figura de Raúl Enrique y Ninochka, que nos ha apoyado todo. Bien, a mí me pidieron que hiciera una pequeña presentación, más o menos referida a esto, un poco deleteada por lo que nuestro moderador nos dice. Y yo intentaré, la verdad es que escuchando todo el grupo de expositores que me anteceden, queda muy poco que decir de mi parte sobre inteligencia artificial. La verdad es que yo he aprendido un montón de inteligencia artificial en el día de hoy. Afortunadamente, solamente tenía un slide sobre inteligencia artificial que puedo pasar rápidamente, porque además mi idea aquí era un poco compartir básicamente la experiencia que como escuela que hemos desarrollado unos programas para potenciar desde la parte académica diálogo social en nuestras sociedades en Latinoamérica, tratar de ver cómo esa experiencia se viene desarrollando, es decir, cómo es la realidad. Porque tenemos un montón de cosas que están escritas en el papel y un montón de intenciones que nos hacemos en las conferencias, etcétera, pero muchas veces la realidad va por otro lado. E intentaré, si bien pasar por encima de mi presentación, que había preparado un poco más desde el punto de vista para compartir algunos conceptos, etcétera, intentaré también dar un pequeño pantallazo de lo que hemos encontrado nosotros en los últimos 5 años de trabajo en este tema, diálogo social, y cómo esto puede impactar, nos está impactando, qué tanto sirve en nuestras comunidades, en nuestros países. Yo hacía una pequeña introducción que tenía que ver con, bueno, cómo, creo que aquí ya lo han puesto en perspectiva muy claramente, cómo la irrupción de las nuevas tecnologías, no es la primera vez que las nuevas tecnologías hacen una disrupción de la forma en que se presta el trabajo. La tecnología, desde que hicieron el fuego, hizo disrupción en la manera en que se organiza el trabajo. La inteligencia artificial sencillamente es otro escalón, para algunos muy profundo, para otros es otro escalón más de esa disrupción, que por supuesto impacta, y quizás aquí hay un elemento también más fuerte, impacta no solamente el ámbito del trabajo y lo que está a su alrededor, sino que esta inteligencia artificial está impactando la sociedad misma. Y de regreso y de rebote vuelve a impactar el trabajo. Y quizá por eso encontramos un impacto muy profundo en las relaciones laborales. Creo que aquí se han hablado de cuáles son los grandes desafíos que se tiene con el tema de la inteligencia artificial. No me voy a meter en eso, se ha explicado de manera abundante y mucho mejor de lo que yo lo pueda hacer. Me piden un poco que haga el match con cómo el papel que tendría ese diálogo social en la construcción de ese nuevo contrato social, que también algunos de los que hablaron se refirieron un poco a él, y qué implica todo este impacto en nuestro mundo, en nuestro entendimiento del mundo, como el tema de la inteligencia artificial y cómo nos refleja en el trabajo y societariamente, qué implica esto, cuán profundo es este pacto. Y finalmente, intento decir algo sobre el diálogo social como respuesta a la crisis esta de la que estamos hablando. Y aquí creo que el elemento central tiene que ver en que cuando vamos a empezar como sociedad a adoptar el diálogo social más que como un instrumento y verlo más allá de una forma instrumental, que lo sigue siendo, como un elemento configurante de nuestra sociedad, de un sistema valórico que tiene en el centro ese elemento, el diálogo, como elemento democratizador, como elemento de interlocución y de legitimación, es decir, como un derecho fundamental. El impacto, no voy a hablar de eso, como digo, ya ustedes han visto el tema de la inteligencia artificial aquí, creo que no vale la pena que me meta yo en eso. Unos apuntes muy cortos sobre ese diálogo social y cómo se viene regulando. Creo que también mencionado aquí, el tema del diálogo social intenta ser un mecanismo de forma horizontal, es decir, que pueda, bajo diversas modalidades, negociación, consulta, lo típico que nos ha enseñado la OIT, intercambio de información, de lograr ese tipo de regulación sobre los aspectos que nos son importantes, y en este caso de esta nueva tecnología. Creo que quizás algo que se debe enfocar o que se debe tener presente es que esta regulación, y ya se mencionó, es una regulación que tiene que tener muchos niveles y que tiene que tener muchas aristas. Esto es algo que creo que es aceptado, por lo menos en la teoría. Y luego el tema de cómo podemos desarrollar en la práctica ese diálogo social, que es quizás donde valdría la pena hacer más anotaciones. Porque para lograr que el diálogo social realmente sea un instrumento, entonces también tenemos que saber cómo vamos a poder diseñar ese diálogo social de manera tal que sea un instrumento válido, sea un instrumento que se utilice y que dé buenos resultados. Y es allí donde entramos a ver, bueno, cuáles son esos elementos fundamentales para que eso sea una herramienta. Bueno, a mí me parece que hay un elemento que en la práctica ha dicho que esto es importante. Por una parte, es decir, deberíamos tener instituciones que estén claramente institucionalizadas, valga la redundancia, en nuestras sociedades, de forma tal que su accionar le permita realmente incidir en nuestra sociedad para tomar decisiones. Y el problema, o uno de los problemas que tenemos en América es la falta de institucionalidad en este sentido. Nosotros podemos recorrer toda Latinoamérica y vamos a encontrar una diversidad de instituciones que se dicen de diálogo social, pero en la práctica lo que logran como tal es muy poco. Pero además son instituciones que son demasiado débiles. Y al ser instituciones demasiado débiles, su voz no hace los frutos que se esperan de ellos. Entonces, aquí hay un reto central en Latinoamérica, la institucionalización, la verdadera institucionalización. Creo que hay algunos ejemplos, sobre todo aquí en Curazao, que nos hablan de un nivel de institucionalización, es decir, cómo la sociedad, no solo el gobierno, es cómo la sociedad entiende esa institucionalización, qué fuerza le da, qué fuerza le exige a sus gobernantes. Y allí creo que hay un problema fundamental, que ni siquiera nosotros mismos como ciudadanos hacemos esa petición, esa fuerza. Fíjese, recuerdo que hace poco estábamos viendo este tema desde el punto de vista también académico y se estaba hablando de hacer un congreso en el que se proponían unos temas y el tema que salió fue inteligencia artificial y su impacto en el trabajo, está de moda. Y allí iban a estar también sindicatos y los sindicatos, un grupo de sindicatos dijo, oye, pero ¿por qué? ¿Para qué vamos a hablar de inteligencia artificial? ¿Acaso que eso es importante? Vamos a hablar de seguridad en el trabajo, que tenemos accidentes, que tenemos esto, que tenemos... Entonces esa realidad no parece ser tan real en ciertos sectores, amplios sectores en el tema laboral. Y eso tiene una razón. No se conoce, no se entiende, se escucha de eso, pero no se sabe en propiedad de qué estamos hablando, ni cuánto puede impactar en nuestros modelos, no solamente laborales, sino societales. Creo que los CES, los consejos económicos, tienen esa posibilidad de una institucionalización más fuerte. Ojo, y no en todos lados. En mi país existe una especie de consejo económico y social con otro nombre, que se creó con mucho interés, pero luego ha decaído y no se le presta la atención que mereciera por la representatividad. Porque es que no es solo la representatividad lo que está afectando esa institucionalidad. A mí me parece claramente que en Latinoamérica tenemos un problema que tiene que ver con el entendimiento político de la representatividad y la prevalencia de esa percepción política sobre lo realmente relevante. Al punto que, aunque se hagan estructuras formalmente adecuadas, si en lo político no hay un apoyo o una internalización, internarlo, en la práctica no funciona. También tenemos estos consejos tripartitos que también están llamados a hacer este tipo de discusiones, pero nuevamente en la práctica son muy pocos los que funcionan y hacen esta labor, a pesar que tengan las competencias para hacerlo, con el mismo problema. Una institucionalidad muy débil, pero que además no es respaldada por las mismas personas que están llamadas a hacerlo. Hay otros elementos allí sobre el rol del diálogo social que tienen que ver un poco con la forma, las instancias en cómo deberíamos poder aplicar. Yo tampoco me voy a meter demasiado en ese tema. Yo creo que ya se mencionó aquí el tema de los convenios colectivos y creo que allí hay mecanismos muy concretos que pueden hacerse, pero cuando vemos cuánta población está cubierta por convenios colectivos en Latinoamérica, nos preguntamos también si esta herramienta, que resulta muy interesante y muy importante en otros espacios como en Europa, donde no solamente están pactando convenios colectivos, sino que están posibilitando su extensión, y eso es un fenómeno interesante, su extensión hacia áreas donde no hay tradicionalmente representación o interlocutores claramente definidos. Porque uno de los elementos centrales del diálogo social es quién es un interlocutor legítimo, dependiendo de los temas específicos de que se trate. Entonces sí, la utilización de la negociación colectiva es un instrumento adecuado, pero en Latinoamérica no parece que eso sea algo que sea muy importante, porque el nivel de sindicalización es muy bajo y aunque el nivel de convención colectiva sea un poquito más alto, no es mucho más grande. Y estamos hablando de niveles de 5%, de 10% de sindicalización. Ojo, sobre la parte que labora formalmente, porque la parte que no labora formalmente ni siquiera se cuenta para eso. Entonces, si tenemos un promedio de trabajo informal en la región de casi 50%, creo que ya pasó del 50% en promedio, hay países que llegan a 80, 85%. Estamos hablando que de ese 50%, el 5 o 10% está cubierto por un convenio colectivo. De manera que venimos a lo mismo. Hay unos diseños que sencillamente no responden a la realidad que se tiene. Hay algunos ejemplos de los que se puede hacer, acuerdos bipartitos, ahí los sindicatos en Estados Unidos, AFL-CIO, con Microsoft logró unas cosas interesantes en las que se podían meter. Eso, por supuesto, es un ejemplo de diálogo social, solo que eso es Norteamérica, no es Latinoamérica. Que si las empresas transnacionales también podrían dar un paso adelante en este tipo de cosas. Bueno, depende de lo que quiera hacer esa transnacional, porque en nuestros países tampoco hay poder para lograr que esa transnacional se siente a hacer un diálogo social legítimo, adecuado. Voy intentando terminar esto. La experiencia en Latinoamérica sobre el tema de la regulación de inteligencia artificial es sencillamente un diálogo, le dicen en España, un diálogo de besugos. Solamente habla uno y si el otro habla, el otro no lo escucha y no se entiende nada. Hay un montón de países, incluido mi país, que han dictado algún tipo de regulación sobre inteligencia artificial. Pero casi nada de esto tiene que ver con diálogo social. Son regulaciones que ha dictado el gobierno para cosas específicas. Entonces sí, existen estructuras, porque si usted revisa la cantidad de consejos nacionales del trabajo y la cantidad de consejos económicos y sociales, usted diría, bueno, pero debe haber diálogo allí. Bueno, en la práctica eso no es la realidad. Entonces, finalmente, con esto termino, señor moderador, creo que ese nuevo contrato social nos plantea unos desafíos muy fuertes, muy importantes. La inteligencia artificial solamente es un elemento más en esos retos que nos dicen un nuevo contrato social, porque es que el reto va más allá del tema tecnológico. Miren, en este mes a mí me tocó viajar como a 5 países aquí en Latinoamérica, en este mes solamente, y tomando el auto, el taxi, el Uber del aeropuerto hacia el hotel, yo me preguntaba cómo hemos desarrollado sociedades con tanta pobreza por todas partes, ciudades de pobres y de pobres y de pobres. Algo no está funcionando en Latinoamérica. Entonces, tenemos una teoría interesante, Naciones Unidas, la OIT, etcétera, pero desafortunadamente el esfuerzo que se está haciendo me parece que es insuficiente. Existe diálogo social, pero el reto es que sea un diálogo social real. Lo dejo ahí, disculpe.
Thank you very much, Esco, for you gave a lecture and I kept some elements. Is someone remember John Rawls, the philosopher in the years of 70s, talking about how to achieve at the level of a just society? And he was talking about mutual step backs from the initial positions to find common ground. Okay. And then you reminded me, the guy who got the Nobel Prize of Economics last year, 2 guys, Acemoglu and Robinson. They said, if you want to, why nations fail? This was the question. And they said, make strong institutions and social dialogue institutions when it's useful for making what? for achieving structural change. Okay, in a smooth way. Thank you very much. I end this panel here and give the space and the floor for the next session. I thank you very much. Let me have a photo with you. Don't a photo of us, please.
Okay, as they're taking their picture, I'm sure you all noticed that the time has left us. The time has left us, and because of that, of course, we are going to do an adjustment. We're not going to do the breakout roundtable. We're going to give the opportunity if anyone has questions, but we're only going to do that for 10 minutes because you have all been here, online and in person, just listening, not having any chance on asking questions. So we want to give that opportunity now for the partners here present and the local persons here. After this meeting at 5, everyone has some little time to go and freshen up because in the evening we have a dinner for our guests and some of our partners. So we have to keep the time also very strict. So I hope everyone understands that. And then, does anyone have any questions? We just have 10 minutes for some questions. Anyone? Of course, I don't know if you can put on screen if one of the other presenters are still online and if they want have questions for them. I see Sabina is still there and Stefano also. Both of them are still there. Anyone, any questions? Okay, for your information, we are going to, of course, ask for all the presentations that were given, and we're going to disseminate those also. Mr. Henriquez has a question.
Yes, thank you very much, Milushka. Good afternoon, everybody. I have a question for Mr. Palmieri regarding, you just have heard how the situation is in this part of the world, especially in America Latina and Latin America, regarding the level of association of workers. We know that in this discussion about artificial intelligence, your point of view is how to protect workers' rights. Europe is much more advanced, and that has been also acknowledged by the last speaker, Mr. Torres de Leon, Vasco. What would you recommend, very briefly, as a first step in order for especially the Latin American region to start as a first step going through that process in order for in a couple of years of in time to try to reach the level that Europe has? I know it's a difficult question, but nevertheless, I wanted your opinion about it. And it can be very brief. What are, in your opinion, prerequisites from the perspective of workers, of course, and workers' rights? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for this interesting question. I want to reply. I want to reply thanks to the one slide that Mrs. Rami showed this afternoon. in this panel. When she say balancing efficiency and rights and answering social justice. I think that we have to start from here. We have to put at the focus the social justice. And one point in the slide should to be is how to answer education remain a silver bullet for productive transformation of economies. I think that we have to put the worker at the focus of our society. We have to put social justice and education. Education is the bullet point to facing this challenging of artificial intelligence, this challenging of the poverty, because I agree with Mr. Vasco Torres de Leon, it's not possible to see this huge amount of poverty, not only in America Latina, but also the growing poverty that is coming also in other countries, in Western countries, in the European Union. And for this reason, there is the growing populism, the growing fascism in many countries, in America Latina and also in the European Union. The danger of the populism is strictly linked with this fact of the growing social injustice. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Palmieri. I must excuse myself. When I was introducing the panelists from the section before, I didn't mention you. I'm very sorry for that. Of course, as you know, we would have loved to have you here in person. Well, things turned out differently, but we are very happy that you were able to join us online. Of course, having the history of having the first regulations in the EU and being from the European Economic and Social Committee, a dear friend and partner of AICESIS, we're very glad that you could make it online with us. Okay, and now to catch up time, I see two questions.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Moi, je m'appelle Ablaye Kontao.
Okay.
Je suis du Mali. J'ai accompagné mon président, Yacouba Ketlé. Et il n'est pas facile de poser une question ici, avec les experts qu'on a eus sur le tableau et puis en ligne. Moi, j'avais noté 3 questions, mais je les ai abandonnées. Par la qualité des experts. Parce que quand on pose une question, ça veut dire que tu n'as rien compris. J'ai failli ne pas comprendre, mais ils se sont complétés tellement entre eux que j'ai apprécié et j'ai éliminé mes questions. Donc il n'est pas bon de quitter sans les apprécier, les féliciter et les remercier. C'est pourquoi j'ai pris la parole pour vous dire ça. Merci.
Okay, I see. Yes.
Merci beaucoup pour la parole. Moi, c'est M. Socrate Célestin Tsikou. Je suis de la République démocratique du Congo. J'ai beaucoup apprécié ces présentations, mais je suis resté un peu sur ma soif parce que j'essaie de faire un lien sur... bon, j'ai eu un peu la chance de participer aux 3 dernières activités de l'AICESIS en Corée du Sud, à Athènes et ici. En Corée du Sud, c'était sur le dialogue social. Et en Grèce, c'était sur la démographie. et tous les défis. Et ici, en parlant de l'intelligence artificielle, de tous les experts qui sont passés, personne n'a fait des liens avec l'impact de l'intelligence artificielle par rapport à la migration. Et ça, c'est une réalité, puisque ceux qui ont pris la parole, parmi les craintes, c'était le vieillissement de la population. Et en face, vous avez deux espaces, ou bien deux régions qui ont une population plus jeune, et que ce sont les populations que nous appelons, par exemple, dans notre pays ou en Afrique, on nous appelle la population androïde, c'est-à-dire des gens prédestinés à travailler sur cette nouvelle révolution. Et face à un vieillissement de la population, certainement il y a un autre défi qui est une opportunité pour les uns et qui doit être un danger, surtout sur ce que le dernier a parlé, sur le populisme dans l'Union européenne. Est-ce que quelqu'un parmi les experts peut nous aider à faire le lien avec les défis que nous pouvons rencontrer par rapport à l'intelligence artificielle et la migration? Merci.
Okay, thank you. I don't know which of the online experts think I'm looking toward Mr. Palmieri a bit, because immigration, of course, has a large impact on Europe. But I don't know if any of the other experts who have just spoken, Mr. Conde or Vasco Torres had to leave, but Mr. Conde, Mr. Amin, maybe he also care to comment on the question posed by the Republic of Congo? Yes, okay. Maybe a mic, or you can stand here. I don't know which. Yes. And after him, we have Daniel had a question, and then we wrap up, because or else the 10 minutes will be gone.
On était en train de parler justement du problème. Okay. Since the question was in French, I will answer in French. Sorry.
Okay. I'll try to follow. Okay.
On était en train de parler. En fait, la problématique de la migration des cerveaux est beaucoup plus large que l'intelligence artificielle. C'est un sujet en soi. Et je pense qu'un jour, il faudra qu'on l'adresse au niveau de l'AICESIS. Puisque, effectivement, l'un des déséquilibres économiques et sociaux entre le sud global et le reste du monde est dû au fait que les cerveaux les plus brillants de chez nous partent ailleurs. Et le développement se fait plus facilement ailleurs. C'est vrai pour l'IA, effectivement. Nous avons de très brillants chercheurs du sud qui sont aux États-Unis, qui sont en Europe, qui sont en Asie. Mais c'est vrai également pour la médecine, c'est vrai pour l'ingénierie des bâtiments, c'est vrai pour absolument tous les secteurs de pointe. Et ça, c'est un problème global, donc on ne peut pas le traiter rapidement. Ce qu'il y a, c'est que je propose que notre futur président de l'AICESIS, peut-être que l'un des sujets, c'est la circulation de l'intelligence. J'aime pas le mot de migration, mais c'est plus la circulation de l'intelligence entre les différents pays qui permet justement de remonter le niveau de tout le monde. Puisque si nos cerveaux vont quelque part, c'est parce qu'ils en ont besoin. Et donc ils n'en ont pas assez, et que notre contribution est une contribution importante. Et à l'inverse, c'est vrai aussi, beaucoup de cerveaux du Nord viennent nous aider à faire des choses que nous aimerions faire pour notre développement. Mais c'est un sujet beaucoup plus large, et je serais très heureux de travailler si jamais un jour un groupe de travail se met en place au niveau de l'AICESIS sur cette thématique qui me tient également à cœur. Merci.
Okay. No, an excellent suggestion, I mean, working towards more equality, that's a great idea. He proposed, one of the things he proposed was a working group. Yeah, so that's a very interesting take. I don't know if Mr. Palmieri wants to give his ideas on it also.
Yes, I think that is absolutely interesting, this to develop for the next meeting a panel about the circulation of the intelligence. And if I know well, the next meeting will be in Athens. We know that in the Mediterranean there were the circulation of the intelligence, and I think that this is an asset, an important asset for the European Union and for all the countries that are in the Mediterranean. And we have to catch this opportunity and this chance. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that. I don't know if Paula wants to add something.
Yes, thank you so much for that question. I think one of the elements that is also interesting to consider, not only when we're talking about flows of intelligence and know-how, is also how to strengthen capacities in developing countries so that we don't have this brain drain. And that involves or implies also strengthening local capacities, enhancing resources, producing data sets and having data sets available, for example, in the global south countries, because that's another issue. And so creating, for example, something else that has been talked about, innovation sandboxes, spaces that allow for innovation in the global south, that allow persons that have been develop their capacities in these different technologies to do so within their countries. So how do we strengthen, for example, possibilities for research in STEM education, but also effective opportunities for employment of young people in the global south, so that we can have also this type of development of technologies within the countries that are, normally the ones that are receiving the technology, but can also be producers.
Okay, thank you for that. Yes, well, we are. You have to round up, so maybe you can put it in your round up.
Okay.
I just have one question of Daniel, and I'm told Dominican Republic has another question also.
Okay,
Daniel?
Yeah, thank you very much, dear Chairman. I do not have a question, just a short contribution, one and a half minute. Okay. I was in the conclusion of Mr. Palmieri. He said that the human being should be and remain at the center of everything what we do with artificial intelligence, and that came to my mind that when we are talking about social dialogue and artificial intelligence, we are also talking about ethics. And as being the president of the National Ethics Commission of the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, it came to my mind that we issued last year an opinion on ethics in the face of artificial intelligence. And I just wanted to share with you the several bioethical principles that apply to the context of artificial intelligence. So I will be very short. The first is the principles of equity and non-discrimination. So AI must not reproduce or amplify biases, be it sexist, cultural, racist, etc., biases originating from human data or systems. Second, principles of beneficence and the principle of non-maleficence. AI can have very positive effects, but also significant risks, be it human risk, environmental, democratic risk, and so on. It must use, therefore, its use must therefore be guided toward promoting well-being and preventing harm. The third one is the principle of autonomy and the principle of responsibility. Human beings must remain at the center, capable of making choices, and responsibility cannot be entirely delegated to AI. And the fourth one is principles of justice, the principles of equity. AI must not widen inequalities, but rather contribute to greater equity and fairness by integrating diversity and by ensuring safeguards for vulnerable groups. So finally, putting human beings and life on Earth at the center, AI cannot be developed solely for performance or cold efficiency, but based on values that place human life, the planet, and biodiversity as the ultimate goals. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. Then the question of the Dominican Republic. Please be brief. Or they don't have a question anymore, I don't know. If that's not the case, then I'm going to give the floor to... no, mi sa, pero Apostolo sa queda dia si wrap up, yeah. I don't see Dominican Republic, or are they? Yes? Ajá. Yes. Ajá. ¿Cómo están?
Muy bien, muchas gracias. ¿Nos escucha?
Sí, 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 escuchamos.
Me quiero sumar.
Ay, el oído cayó. No, no hay audio. Ah, otra vez, sí, sí. Parece que va y viene.
Bueno, estamos aquí, Ana Selman, secretaria general del Consejo Económico y Social, y Mariano Berlet, director de comunicaciones. El presidente del CEN, señor Rafael Perillo, estuvo en la mañana en parte de la sección, pero por razones previas hoy no está en la tarde. Queremos sumarnos al agradecimiento a AICESIS y al CES de Curazao, que ha organizado esta importante jornada, y felicitar a cada uno de los panelistas. Realmente ha sido un regalo de oro el escuchar tantas intervenciones de tan alto nivel. Yo, escuchando todas las intervenciones, y de manera especial la del señor Javín de COSOP, cuando hablaba de la necesidad de un nuevo contrato social que permitiera hacer una especie de hoja de ruta para que ese contrato garantice un desarrollo económico para el progreso y el trabajo digno. Me preguntaba, ¿podríamos nosotros como AICESIS pensar en unos lineamientos para que ese contrato social tome cuerpo en nuestras sociedades y que nuestros consejos económicos y sociales podamos plantear rutas que permitan arribar a ese nuevo contrato social? Más que una pregunta, es una reflexión y una motivación. Pienso que el sistema de Naciones Unidas ha jugado un papel fundamental en el contrato social que se ha mantenido por décadas para la consolidación de la democracia, y que las instituciones miembros del sistema de Naciones Unidas, que son tan colaboradoras con la AICESIS, bien podrían ayudarnos en esa reflexión. Muchísimas gracias, y de verdad un esfuerzo maravilloso.
Muchas gracias, y muchas gracias por las sugerencias. Es claro algo que vi a Raúl que sí, yo también sí. Estoy seguro de que algunos otros también, miembros, estoy hablando español ahora. I'm sure some of you here present, also members of AICESIS, think the same, that we can be instrumental in developing that. And now, without further ado, Apostolos is going to give a wrap-up, a summarizing, and then afterwards, the closing. Raúl Enriquez will do that in the place of John. Yes, Mr. Jacobs. The floor is yours.
I will not summarize the lectures that have been given here. I want to thank Daniel. You did my job a little bit, okay, with your statement. But nevertheless, and I would like to reply to my friend from the RDC. You know Alioune Sall from Senegal, this philosopher? He's an amazing man, Alioune Sall. I met him recently in Morocco. He's a professor of the university, also a member of the Academy of Morocco. And Alioune Sall said, one of the driving force that make people move, and especially in Africa, is gerontocracy. They feel inside the society that it's not only a driver that they are looking for a better future and a better income outside. It's the structure of the societies. Also, think of it. I don't know if it is scientifically proved, but this is what Alioune Sall, this great philosopher from Senegal, said. Then, we have been working today in exploring the immense potential of AI. And we have also touched
the darker side. The truth is that AI isn't a tool, it is also a risk, and one that can undermine skills, trust, transparency, and even the security of our knowledge base. Here are 4 blind spots that could define the future if we don't act wisely. The risk, by outsourcing too much, humans get dumber. Replacing a quota, replacing entry-level tasks with AI deprives employees of crucial learning experiences, leading to long-term skill erosion. This is Harvard Business Review article. When AI takes over the boring tasks within a business, we lose practice ground where real expertise is forged. Over time, entire professions could hollow out and human intelligence could sink. The blind trust in bad data. What is the danger here? Believing AI without questioning it. This isn't just about biased databases, data sets, it's about consequences. And this is McKinsey reference on the state of AI in 2024. I quote, "The number one risk leaders cite in adopting AI is inaccuracy, compounded by data quality and bias concerns." Then, third element of this shadow thing around AI today, maybe tomorrow will be different. Opacity, it's the hidden agendas in the code. And who owns the code? Who drives the code? Opacity means we don't know who or what is really making decisions without explainability. Managers risk becoming nothing more than rubber stamps for outputs they cannot challenge. And finally, the theft of knowledge. I said in the beginning, the oligopoly of AI machines. Data in this new gold is the new gold, and AI is the ultimate extractor. Without robust governance, AI can hoard knowledge, strip organizations of intellectual capital, and centralize power in the hands of few. And this is UNESCO recommendation on ethics and AI who say it. And this is not just about privacy, it's about the future of human agency and individual rights. Finally, AI is a revolution, yes, but every revolution comes with shadows. If we don't address these blind spots, skill erosions, blind trust opacity, and data theft, we risk building a future that looks less like empowerment and more like dependence. The fifth revolution will not be won by those who deploy AI the fastest, by those who deploy it the wisest. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Apostolo, for these reflections. It's indeed, as you said, more than just a summary. It just emphasizes that a working group of AICESIS might be something that we would be able to work on in the future, especially given the presidency of Greece. So we're looking forward to it, and you always know you can count on us for that. Well, and now at the end, we have Mr. Henriquez. He's going to do the closing remarks for Mr. John Jacobs.
Yes, good afternoon or good evening. Bonsoir, buenas noches. As we conclude, thank you, Milushka. As we conclude, allow me to express sincere gratitude to all who contributed today, from those gathered here in Willemstad to those who joined across regions and time zones. Together we have shown that meaningful dialogue is not constrained by geography. 3 conclusions stand out, and I want to be very briefly. First, governance must keep pace with innovation so that rights, responsibilities, and oversight evolve alongside technology. Second, education and inclusion are indispensable if the digital transition is to expand opportunity rather than deepen inequality. And third, our own social dialogue institutions must adapt, embracing new tools and partnerships to guide this transformation with credibility and trust. I thank our moderators, Milushka, Apostolos, facilitators, interpreters, and organizing and technical teams for their precision and professionalism. Above all, I thank each participant, also each expert who gave us this afternoon a wide range of information. Thank you for that, for your professionalism and your discipline, depth, and generosity. Let us carry forward, people, what we have achieved today, a shared commitment to evidence-based policy, inclusive governance, and accountable follow-through. The age of artificial intelligence must also be an age of renewed solidarity, decent work, and social justice. Social justice, justice sociale, that's the key. So that progress in technology goes hand in hand with progress in humanity. Thank you, and I wish you all a pleasant evening. And let's hurry up because dinner is going to start in a couple of minutes. I thank you so much. Also the people who I think they already left or they're here, the ones who are online, okay, all the best to you. Thank you so much, okay, for your valuable contributions. And Renzo, muchas gracias por tu presencia, colegas de República Dominicana. Gracias. Merci bien à tous. And I expect everybody at the dinner table later. Thank you. Muchas gracias. Good evening.
We done it. It's the end of the workshop. I just wanted to remind at 7 o'clock the buses will leave. So if we are all ready at 7, then we can go to the place for the dinner. Of course, the Spain delegation is staying there, so for them it's easier. But for the others, please be on time. Okay, see you later.